You're watching the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Now it's time for the Brent Austen Show.
Well, there's the list of 10. Where are we at on that list of 10? Well, we've got 4 interviews in the books, at least the first interview. I think you got to caution people and let people know that this is a long process, I think, for the Jags, I think for the Chicago Bears, shortened for the New England Patriots, as we now know. But this is just the beginning because these are first interviews, virtual interviews. Like, there's no way someone's getting hired just on a virtual interview. So I think there's a lot more still to come here. For the Jacksonville Jaguars and the due diligence department. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been very transparent. We like that. We applaud them for that, and they will continue to do that. So what we found out yesterday is nothing new on the Jags front, but we did have a lot happening over the weekend. We'll get to it. Brent Martineau here, Austen Lane down in South Florida, and Jason Hamby in the Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network studios. Hopefully everybody had a good weekend. It was a kind of a nice weekend in many respects. No football for us around here, so the offseason kind of begins, and obviously the search is on for the Jags' new head coach. I'll tell you what was worse? First round of the college football playoffs or first round of the NFL playoffs, Austen Lane?
I would probably say the first round of the college football playoffs because I kind of figured how that would go. I had Houston winning, but I didn't know it was going to look like that. And then obviously you kind of had a really good game last night with Washington, Tampa Bay. So at least there was something to kind of salvage a pretty boring first round.
Yeah, good morning, everybody in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us. Yeah, I think it's weird. I'm not surprised by the games the way they were in many respects because you usually get one blowout in Wildcard Weekend anyway. Now you have 6 games, so you even have more than you used to have. Home teams, I think, are now 18-5 because of the Tampa loss since they went to this new formula, and it's a year of haves and have-nots. I mean, the bottom line is we don't have parity in the NFL this year. Like, we haven't had it all year. It is. I can't remember, Austin, the last time we had so little parity in the NFL. I mean, it's a league built on that. You get new teams, like you get the Denver Broncos and everything else, but we don't have. I mean, the elite teams are just a lot better. And there are a lot of bad teams in the NFL, and I think you can make the case, even like the Broncos, they beat teams that weren't very good, which is what you're supposed to do. They played a weaker schedule, 3rd or 4th place schedule out of the West. They're playing with a rookie quarterback. Like, I didn't really give them much of a chance in that football game to begin with, playing against one of the elite teams in the Buffalo Bills.
No, I mean, listen, I understand that the wild card round, you're always going to get some of those, teams that scratch and claw to get in at the end, and maybe they can't hold up. But I do think there's some parity this year in the NFL because I think you take the top 3 teams in the AFC, you take the top 3 teams in the NFC, and I think it's kind of a pick-em of who you think they can actually go to the Super Bowl, the number 1, and the number 2 actually win the Super Bowl. I think there's arguments for the Eagles. I think there's arguments, maybe for the Vikings. There's arguments for the Lions. And who knows, maybe the Rams can pull something out of there, what. And then on the other side, I mean, yeah, the Ravens right now are a very hot team. Derrick Henry obviously leading the charge, but the Bills are looking like a pretty legit team. And, Kansas City Chiefs, despite how you feel about them, they know how to win. So I think there is some parity actually this year in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, maybe in the playoffs. I mean, that's 5 or 6 teams, and that's if Minnesota gets by tonight. Like, I think most people I've seen are picking the Rams to beat the Minnesota Vikings tonight, which I'm not sure is a smart move, but I think if you take the quarterback-coach tandem, you'd be like, okay, I like that matchup better than Minnesota's matchup, even as good as O'Connell and Darnold have been. But, yeah, I mean, I guess, listen, we still can have a very good playoff. But much like college football or when you get to the NCAA tournament, there's really not that. You got to get deeper into it before you get the quality games. I mean, we're going to get a Super Bowl matchup this weekend in Baltimore and Buffalo, which is great. Like, that should be really good. But we also might get some blowouts this weekend, too. Like, who knows what Houston and Kansas City could look like, although it doesn't look like Kansas City blows out anybody. And as fun as the Commanders have been and a nice story, I'm not sure how much we're going to give them a chance to beat the Detroit Lions next weekend. At home, well-rested, all those things. That's an uphill battle for sure, where if Tampa had won, you would have potentially had like the Rams or Minnesota going to Detroit, which I think looks, at least on paper, like a much more entertaining and tougher task for the Detroit Lions. Feels a little bit like a layup this week for them.
Yeah, you would think so. I mean, obviously a rookie quarterback playing in a pretty hostile environment. Obviously, I think Detroit's gonna be fired up, ready to roll. But the story all year of Detroit is their defense and their laundry list of injuries. And obviously, I think the Commanders are a team that can maybe expose you a little bit on defense. So yeah, obviously it's gonna be a huge advantage for the Detroit Lions, but. I think it'll be a great experience with Jane Daniels. And if he somehow pulls the rabbit out of his hat against Detroit, man, then now we're talking about Jane Daniels being an elite quarterback possibly already as a rookie.
Hey, Buffalo, here's what I will say about it. Like Steph last night, she's like, man, Commanders are fun. I like them. That's a nice team to root for, and they haven't won in 20 years. Jaden Daniels seems like a good dude. Dan Quinn is a good dude. Like, they fixed their organization. You feel pretty good for them. I mean, those fans have really struggled over the last 2 decades. They got Daniel Snyder out of there, and boom. Look what happened.
Crazy, yeah.
And then Buffalo's interesting, right? Because you kind of hate Buffalo sometimes because their fans and everything else are a little crazy if they're coming to your town. But it's also a cool thing. If you've ever been up there, the Bills Mafia travels. They've been through a lot over the years. So you can feel good about them potentially winning. I actually think Baltimore has a little bit of this. Baltimore's a tough team not to like. I mean, Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson, what they've done for the league, what they've meant for the league so far in their careers, to be able to go to a Super Bowl would, I think, be pretty cool. And I like John Harbaugh. I think he's more likable than, maybe less polarizing, if you will, than his brother. And then you got Detroit. Right? And Detroit, how can you not feel good for those fans? So it does have an element where it's like easy to root for teams in this playoff to maybe get a good storyline. As I say, anybody but Kansas City right now. And not because I dislike Kansas City. I think those guys are easy to like too. I'm just tired of them.
No, I hear you, man. But obviously, I think we talk about professional sports. Everyone needs a villain. And it's wild how I think the Kansas City Chiefs for the first couple of years, with like the likable Andy Reid and, everyone was in awe of Patrick Mahomes and what he could do. It's funny how they were really kind of just like America's feel-good team. And then over a couple years of winning, over a couple years of, questionable calls from the refs, now they become the villain. And it's just crazy how in a couple years' time, you go from being like the most liked team in America to now maybe the most despised team. And obviously, I'm sure Taylor Swift has something to do with that as well. But It's crazy just that transition.
Yeah, you get some of that. All right, let's get to the Jags' point of view here. And I always like to say, hey, what do we know? Right? What do we know on these situations where there's going to be a lot of stuff flying around? Actually, I think the Jags' transparency has controlled some of the stuff flying around. I feel like there's less of it. They might be doing a little bit better job of squashing some of the rumors or not letting things out of there. Who knows? I really believe when guys get interviewed, yep. Even though there are some connections to even guys that get interviewed in town, like a Mark Brunell to a Ben Johnson, I think things go real quiet. I think the guys are told, the interviewees, if you will, are told, hey, let's keep this thing really tight. It doesn't do anything for them to start, texting and sharing thoughts of this went good, this went bad. You see some of that stuff, how much I believe some of that stuff. Like there's a guy in Chicago who's been tweeting a bunch of stuff, and I don't know who the heck he is. He just kind of says stuff. I don't believe a lot of it. So what do we know is really something that I like to do at this time of year in terms of where the Jags stand. Well, we know they did 3 interviews on Saturday. They got the Lions guys and Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson and also Patrick Graham, who, by the way, with no disrespect to him, I think he's way down the chart of candidates for their head coach, but I think he could be a viable candidate for their defensive coordinator job. And so I think him being involved in this process has some significance, in my opinion. And then Friday, it was Steve Spagnuolo as well, a guy who, as a coordinator, has 4 Super Bowl rings, didn't do a great job his first go-around, but that was a long time ago now. As a head coach. I think it was like some 14, 15 years ago. He was the head coach in the NFL. So that's what we've got. There are 6 other guys. It's been reported that Saleh is going to interview tomorrow. These other guys that played this weekend can jump on a virtual interview this week as well. So that's the next phase of this. The Liam Cohens now who are out.
He's fired up.
That opens the door, right? And then the Floreses, we'll see what happens with guys like that. So that's where we stand. I mean, that's what we know, Austin. And, the other thing we know is Mike Vrabel is to the Patriots. Yep. So they're off the board. But when he comes off the board, that was a weird report. Schefter reported last week, right? We were in the middle of the show where Schefter reported that he was going to interview with the Jags. I never saw that again. Like, that was an interesting one to me. Like, it was floated around for about an hour or two, it felt like, and then that was it. And the Jags never acknowledged that. And he was going to New England the whole way. We knew that. They're going to introduce him today. But the significance there is Ben Johnson. Now, that's one of his 4 interviews. So Ben Johnson basically has 4 things on the table now. New England's off it. The Jags are on it. The Bears are on it. The Raiders are on it. And the Lions are on it. Because he could always go back to Detroit, which we could talk about in length a little bit more. So that's what we know, Austen. And I guess maybe the other thing we know is I'd be stunned if we know if there's a head coach in Jacksonville this week with all these interviews going on. I don't think they're going to get through them all to be able to hire a guy by the end of this week.
No, I mean, it's just the first round of interviews. Who's to say they're not going to bring people back for a second interview in person? If Ben Johnson's, playing in a Super Bowl, well, then that's going to take a little longer. So, yeah, this could definitely be a long, drawn-out process. But at the same time, if you want to buy into the rumors that Ben Johnson might be, staying in Detroit, well, then I hope that he announces it sooner rather than later. But to him, I mean, what's the point of doing that? If I'm Ben Johnson, I'm taking my time here. I'm focused obviously on the playoffs right now. I'm focused on taking on Washington, and I'm taking my time, right? Because I'm the highest commodity right now. Everybody wants me, so I'm going to make them wait, and I'm going to make them sweat, and I'm going to try to get the best deal possible. And if nothing really, tickles my fancy, I'll just go back to Detroit.
When do you think Doug Peterson was hired February 3rd or 4th? And keep in mind, even O'Connell, I think, who was part of the Rams Super Bowl that year, they kind of knew before the Super Bowl week. I think the reports started to fly. Now, everybody else had pretty much had their job filled, I think maybe except for the Saints, if I'm not mistaken, because they were a late firing that year. I mean, again, I said by the end of this week, I would say no way. No way. And I think Chicago's in the same boat here, by the way. And it looks like Vegas might be in the same boat. I don't think anybody's moving quick after this New England deal. So it's basically, I think we're some 10 days, some 12 days. I mean, what's this week? Today's the 13th. So the Super Bowl's like the 9th. I mean, think about that. That's like 27 days in between now and the Super Bowl. If Detroit goes to the Super Bowl, we could be a month away. Still from the Jags getting a coach also. It seems kind of nuts.
It seems kind of nuts, man, but you know how the social media cycle is going to go. I'm sure we'll have a good idea, or if not, then we'll just be led astray, and they'll announce somebody on social media, and then it won't even be that guy, and people will back it up, and then they'll have to apologize for it later. But at the end of the day, I think we'll have a pretty good idea in about a week or so.
Yeah, I think it will start to narrow down. I think the dominoes will start to fall, right? All right. So what else do we know? Here's what we know, and I don't know if you have this poll or not ready to go, Hamby, but we know the fans want Ben Johnson. I mean, the fans
wants Ben. Yeah,
right.
I mean,
Safe to say. I mean, well, it's safe to say off a poll that I did.
Doesn't everybody want do you want Ben Johnson?
Yeah, I think when push comes to shove, I think I want Ben Johnson. I feel, but I also ask myself this: am I followed in line with everybody? Is it the cool thing to do? Is it is why? Right? I mean, just make sure I figure this out. Why? I think a lot of people are like Ben Johnson or bust. I'm not necessarily in that camp. I think there are good candidates to potentially get. I put this out yesterday morning. This is about 750 votes in. I think we've also got even more, but I clipped it last night for Action Sports Jack's primetime. I mean, look, the vote's over, right? Ben Johnson, 73%. This is from some of the fans, obviously unofficial. And I really start to wonder where the rest of the list even falls. Aaron Glenn was surprising on this list to me to get 18%. Liam Cohen, I think a guy that's going to collect some steam here who hasn't yet is a Joe Brady, and we'll talk about him this week. But I think he should be getting more steam, and I wonder if he starts to replace Cohen just because the Bucs lost. We'll get to that in just a little bit. But it's pretty obvious the Jags fans would like to see Ben Johnson as the guy, but I guess you're right, Austen. Chicago feels the same way. There are rumors about Vegas and Tom Brady wanting that to happen. And above all, Dan Campbell would love to keep him.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he's the highest commodity right now. And I wanted Vrabel, so you miss out on Vrabel. I would probably say Ben Johnson right now is the other guy that I would want. I do like Aaron Glenn, and I think, we talked about it before a little bit, from a leader of men, from a motivator of men, I would actually probably almost lean Glenn more than I would Johnson. So I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing if you get Glenn in here, because once again, this is more of just than calling plays. All right, this is more than just the development of Trevor Lawrence. Those two things are very important, obviously, but this has to be a complete rebrand of what this identity is, who these players are, and what they're playing for. And I think Glenn even gives you a better option than Johnson does. So I would be happy, honestly, with either of them.
So we did this topic last night on Action Sports Shacks Primetime, and I kind of got in a little bit of a rabbit hole here doing this. And I just want to showcase the Jags have done this quite a bit, right? We've gone through a lot of different renditions of the Jags hiring a coach, and I wondered if when the fans want somebody, do the Jags get that person? And I don't have a great memory in some of this, so I don't know where some of this who thought what, going back to 2013 or 17 or 21, 22. 22 is most recent. I think people were okay with Doug Peterson when he got the job. I think we all said right away, hey, right now coming off Urban Meyer, you need Doug Peterson or Jim Caldwell. That was like one of the early stuff. And Caldwell, at his age, never even got hired or anything like that. But he did interview with the Jags. Then there was the Byron Leftwich stuff. So I think there was a fan segment that wanted Byron Leftwich to come to Jacksonville with a new GM, all the rest. By the way, that wouldn't have worked out if you read up on the GM that was in Arizona and potentially coming here. So I went down the rabbit hole of this, guys. 2022 cycle, Doug Peterson, I think, was a good choice relative to the field. All right, Byron Leftwich, Lovie Smith, Eberflus, Daboll, O'Connell, McDaniel, Hackett, Dennis Allen, Josh McDaniels, Todd Bowles. And in hindsight, Austin, you'd say, okay, O'Connell would be the guy, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But it really wasn't a great class. Like, the Jags did okay based on that class, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the only thing O'Connell had going for him was the fact, okay, he's tied to Sean McVay, and it seemed like everybody that was tied to Sean McVay, was highly coveted. But besides him, no, I think, you got maybe the second best option in Doug Peterson.
Okay, so let's keep going down the list. 21, they hire Urban Meyer. Outside the box, they really go get Urban. And here are the names that were on the list. Culley, Saleh, Staley, Arthur Smith. Sirianni was hired that year. And Dan Campbell was hired that year. So again, in hindsight, you could say Dan Campbell, but if you remember the feel around here, I don't remember people talking about Dan Campbell to Jacksonville or let's go get Dan Campbell. You know what I mean?
No, without a doubt. And I think people were, obviously it was the outside the box thinking it was the most exciting hire. It was the hire that got all the tabloids and all the social media attention, all the late breaking coverage on ESPN was Urban Meyer. So yeah, I think people were excited for that.
Yeah, and by the way, the tabloids never stopped. 2017, Jags hire Coughlin and Marone, the other coaches in that cycle. Now, this one's interesting. And this one, again, we're getting to the point where I'm like, I can't really remember. Vance Joseph, Anthony Lynn, and then 2 home run hires by teams. Sean McDermott, who I don't think was really talked about in the cycle here in Jacksonville at all. I don't remember that. And then Sean McVay to L.A., who I think was a guy that people were talking about. Would you go get a young hotshot guy, one of the first young hotshot guys the league hired, right? 31 years old, I think he was at the time, Austin. And as it looks, there's the guy. There's the guy, but I don't think there was any juice for that. There was more juice for a guy like Josh McDaniels, who didn't get a coaching job that cycle, being interviewed. And nobody saw Coughlin Marone coming. It's not like the fans were like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah. No, for sure. I think during that cycle, I think McVay, in retrospect now, that was the guy to get. But I think some people were a little optimistic to say, all right, this young upstart guy who a lot of the players are older than him, how's he going to handle being a head coach and a leader of men? And, well, turns out he's doing just fine.
And then one last one. Jags hired Gus Bradley, who, by the way, was kind of that up-and-coming guy on the defensive side, coming out of Legion of Boom with Seattle and what they were doing. Here are the other guys in that cycle. Chip Kelly, Mark Trestman, Mike McCoy, Doug Marrone by the Bills, ironically, Rob Chudzinski for Cleveland, and Bruce Arians. That would have been Bruce Arians, Arizona, back then, before he ended up going to Tampa, right? Arians was the head coach in Arizona?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the coordinator at in the Colts and then went to Arizona.
Oh, Shanahan was also 2017 Delphonic. I don't know how I missed that one. Thanks for catching that. But Shanahan, by the way, I think was thought of to be in this mix as well in Jacksonville. And I don't know if the fans were all over the Shanahan stuff or not, because keep in mind, that would have been after the Super Bowl. Was that after the Super Bowl stuff or before the Super Bowl stuff? Was Shanahan hired in San Fran in 17?
Wasn't he hired? Yeah, wasn't he hired right before the Super Bowl?
Oh, so he was hired before the Super Bowl, and it was 17 where the Super Bowl went awry?
Hold on, let me make sure.
Austin, were we at the Super Bowl in Atlanta, the 28-3 game with Brady?
Oh.
No.
What do you mean, were you at this? You don't know?
I know I was. I don't know if Austin
okay,
was.
My bad.
Which one were you at?
No.
Yeah, he was hired on February 6, 2017 by the 49ers.
Okay.
So that would have been right before the Super Bowl.
So it was that Super Bowl. But we hadn't started the show yet, so we wouldn't have been there. So Atlanta must have got the Super Bowl again, and didn't we go to an Atlanta Super Bowl?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we're at the Aquarium. The Atlanta Super Bowl. What was it? It was the Rams? I don't know, man. So long ago, Brent.
Yeah, I don't know either, but it wouldn't make sense that the Atlanta had gotten the Super Bowl. Oh, well, that Atlanta was being in the Super Bowl doesn't mean is in Atlanta. So now I'm getting the two confused. But anyway, the last one in 2013 was Andy Reid, too. So Andy Reid, the Chiefs go get. So out of that cycle, there was nobody really good in 2013. It's really amazing if you look at this. I mean, you go back 13, Andy Reid's a slam dunk. In 17, you get McVay, McDermott, and Shanahan, who have done well. In 21, you get Dan Campbell and Sirianni. I think you got to give him credit for what he's been able to do. It's been a weird ride, but you got to give him credit. And in 22, the only guy that's been good is O'Connell. So, I mean, there's a lot of names going in the mix. I mean, people will argue about McDaniels. I don't think Mike McDaniel down in Miami, I don't think he's been very good. But Dable was a coach of the year for a year. But, I mean, Peterson, did that too. So just pretty my point here was, okay, who do the fans want? Who do the Jags get? Do they get the hot guy on the market? Well, Kansas City swooped in so fast, they couldn't even think about Andy Reid. And if you really think about that process, that was the first time. I mean, Shad was an owner for a year. He probably didn't even know much about the process. Now he's learned a lot over the years about how at least the way to do the process. So let's go back to Ben Johnson for a second, because obviously, hands down, he's the guy that people want and fans want. I think there's no chance he's going back to Detroit. I should say no. Very little chance he's going back to Detroit. I get you want to have a place where you can be successful. He's got some options here where you can find success, I think. I don't think you're always going to have issues. You're going to a team that needs a new coach. So I think it's dangerous coming off this 2-year run for Ben Johnson to say, nah, I'm good. I think he's taken one of these jobs, Austin. How do you feel about it?
I think he's taking one of the jobs if it's the perfect fit for him, because I think he has the luxury of knowing, listen, I understand nothing's guaranteed in the NFL, but if we're to put wagers down next year of if the Lions will be good or not, I think we can all agree if they come back 100% healthy, they're going to be a great team again. And Ben Johnson's probably going to flourish again. So I think Ben Johnson holds all the cards now, where if he goes to these interviews, he talks to these owners, he talks to some of the GMs, and he goes, you know what? Not the most perfect fit for me. All good. I'll just go back to Detroit where I know what I got here, and I'll wait for the most perfect opportunity to come around. There's some coaches out there that you got to strike while the iron's hot, because you may not get another opportunity. And there's some coaches who I think hold all the cards where they can just go, I'll go at my own time with who I want to go with. And that's where Ben Johnson's at. So, I mean, I'm not really to say it's a guarantee that he's not going back to Detroit or anything, but I can definitely see it happening.
Hammy, how do you feel about it? What do you think? I mean, I get the idea, and I think it's kind of cool that he's willing to go back and keep those doors open and all that stuff. But I do think you get into a little bit of like a Josh McDaniels type of situation where you're like, okay, I'm going to go here, and then, oh, no, I'm not really going there, and I'm going to interview with everybody, and I'm so close, but I'm not, and then you miss your window, right? Yeah. I mean, now he got a couple opportunities, but I mean, that's the guy that comes to mind where it's like, okay, hot guy, everybody wants to interview him, but then it doesn't take a job. I mean, very few of these guys go through the cycle, get opportunities to coach, and say, nah, I'm good. I'm going to go back. Especially after 2 years of doing it. Like, to do it a second time around, why would you start wasting your time with him in year 3?
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of something to respect for Ben Johnson to go back, because coaching is such a climb the ladder, always trying to get to the next spot, the next biggest thing. And for somebody to have an opportunity, and again, we don't know if he actually had offers last year, but he was pretty adamant about staying in Detroit. I think there's something to be said about that. However, to do it 2 years in a row, at the end of the day, he's probably making $2 million this year as an offensive coordinator, and he would be turning down 8, 9, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, but other than the money, you do have to strike when the iron's hot, in a sense, and it's never hard. You are the top candidate other than Mike Vrabel, who was the top candidate for at least 1 or 2 teams, but there's no doubt in my mind that Ben Johnson is at the top of at least 3 teams' boards, and you have to strike, and they're going to lay out the red carpet for you. Like, is there going to be better opportunities next year? I mean, it's hard to go ahead and say who's going to be really bad and they're going to be firing their coach next year, but you have great quarterbacks for teams that are bad. They're good quarterbacks. Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, those are good quarterbacks for teams that are bad and have openings.
Yeah, you have light on the opening front this year, so you will get more opportunities, Austin. I mean, there's going to be another 5, 6, 7 jobs open. That happens every single year, so there will be more opportunities. Right. And I do think Hamby's right about this, though. I'm not sure you'll have this much leverage. Again, like, he is the top candidate, top guy coming off this great year. Yeah, I agree with you. I think Detroit's good for a bit now. I mean, there's no reason to think they wouldn't be, but I'm not sure they'll be this good, right? I mean, there's opportunity right now that you have so much leverage. You can kind of shape this thing the way you want. So I respect the heck out of him considering Detroit. I just think, man, you don't want to miss a chance. You might regret it if you do.
Well, let me ask you this: do you think Brian Daboll wishes that he would have stayed another year in Buffalo before he went on to New York Giants?
Well, I mean, when coach of the year the first year, I think he would have. I think he would have liked to go back in year 2. Yeah.
Do you think Saleh would have maybe preferred to stay in San Fran another year before he went to New York?
Tough to say in hindsight.
Yeah, I don't.
Well, no, but this is my.
I don't think so. I don't think so in Saleh's case. I think you might. I get what you're saying in the Daboll case. I don't know the other jobs, Austin. Right? I think I'd have to look at in 23. Right? What were the jobs when those got hired? Or I guess in 22, like, it could have been the Jags job for a guy like, when did Saleh get hired, in 22 or 21? You know what I'm saying? You'd have to look at what was open, what were the situations. You really have to identify that. It's not a bad point, though. And would they have the leverage? Again, there's no guarantee you're going to have that leverage. Now, San Fran followed it up again. Buffalo followed it up again. So I think you're right that they would have had those situations. But again, Ben Johnson just did that. Like, you already did that once. Are you going to do that again is really the question.
Like I said, I think when you have the ability to follow it up and do it again, it's not like Byron Leftwich or anything where you go to a Super Bowl and all of a sudden maybe fall off a little bit. Like, Ben Johnson now has showed consistently that he can manage a pretty damn good offense. So if you show that consistently and you're the top pick and you're the highest commodity, why would I settle for anything less than the perfect situation for me?
But one thing to finish this off. Anybody else in this cycle that could do that? Like, Vrabel could have done that, right? If say the Patriots didn't open up or didn't like it, it looked like he was going to take a job no matter what. He was a guy that, I don't want to be out of the league for 2 years. I think that comes into play too, like, where you don't want to sit for 2 years, and then you fall into like a Byron Leftwich, who just kind of went away for a couple of years, and now he's not top of mind, unless the Patriots are just trying to fulfill the Rooney Rule. Quite frankly, is what it looked like. So Anybody else in this cycle, as you look at these names, I mean, you got Saleh again, who basically has felt like he's been out the whole year because he got fired so early in the season, even though he was with Green Bay most of the year helping those guys out. Anybody have that kind of leverage to say no to a job and be like, hey, I'm going to wait it out and see again?
He's not even close to the same level of Ben Johnson, but I think if Kellen Moore has success in Philly and they can go to a Super Bowl, he can kind of say, yeah, I'm all good right now. I got, Saquon here. I got Hurts and everything. Like, give me another year. But once again, I don't think he's on the same level as Ben Johnson. I think Ben Johnson's kind of like the anomaly here.
Yeah, I think I was trying to think like Cohen could, but Cohen coming off a big year, right? This might be like his chance too. And Kellen Moore's a good one. Kellen Moore's a good one because Kellen Moore's still kind of a weird deal. He was a hot name for a while. Then the Cowboys like, yeah, see you later. We think we'll be better without you. Then the Chargers, then the Eagles. He's kind of recovered a bit, but it's still, I think he's lukewarm in the circles for a lot of fans at least, or at least around this cycle for the Jags. So, it really looks like Aaron Glenn's going to take an opportunity this time. And
age is a big factor in this.
Age?
Yeah, because Aaron Glenn's much older.
Yeah.
He really has to strike.
Yeah, you really got to look at those young guys. The Joe Bradys, the Cohens, the Kellen Moores, and obviously Ben Johnson, I think, fit that to say, all right, maybe this situation isn't great. All right, that's some Ben Johnson talk. That's what we know about the cycle right now. Now let's go to the I don't know part. And there's a lot of talk now coming off Pittsburgh's performance this week of Mike Tomlin. Could Mike Tomlin be let go? Should the Pittsburgh Steelers move on? And just a hypothetical here, because I think it's a fascinating hypothetical. Would you be interested in Mike Tomlin here in Jacksonville or whatever your favorite team is that's looking for a coach and stability? Let's take a time out. Brent Austen Show here on a Monday as the Jags search continues for their next head coach, the 10th in franchise history. We're on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Talk more about the playoffs as well. A week from today, it's the college football playoff. A lot to dissect. And Hamby brought up a good question, unsolicited. He doesn't even probably know I think it's a good question and topic. We'll get to it. When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway or shop online at NimnickBuickGMC.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnick has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy, respect, fairness, and most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnick. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnick GMC. We are professional grade. Happy New Year for the UNF Ospreys, and basketball season is in the teeth of conference play right now. A slow start for the men's team out of the gates with 3 straight losses, but then they broke through in the win column with a win over Bellarmine. The offense scored 98 points in that one. A long way to go, including a stretch the next few weeks with a chance to go on a winning streak. 8 home games in the next 3 weeks for the men's and women's basketball team combined. So check out UNFOspreys.com for the latest in news, schedules, results, and tickets. UNF Arena is a great place to watch a game, so go check them out. And while the hoop teams are battling some snow while on the road, the spring sports season has already arrived with the men's tennis program notching its first win under new coach John Collins. Swoop with the Ospreys in the winter and the spring, inside and outside. Check out UNFOspreys.com for all things Ospreys. I've been telling you about CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing for a long time now. Their drinking water systems remove up to 99% of contaminants. We've had a Connecticut water softener and drinking water system in our home for more than 7 years. You can see the difference whether you're washing clothes, the dishes, or what I like to do most, fill this up for some coffee every morning, and mostly all day. Remember, if you're not filtering your water, you are the filter. Don't be the filter. Right now, save $1,000 or more when you bundle a Connecticut Premier Softener with a Connecticut K5 drinking water system. The experts at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing will test your water for free and determine your water score. Don't know your water score? CGC will find out and recommend the appropriate Connecticut water treatment solutions so you can improve it. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. Ask about our 90-day love it or leave it guarantee. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard Built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
New to town or always been in town? Everyone is always looking for a good pizza place. Our place is Donato's Pizza. We love it and still do love it. When I tell my family I'm coming to Donato's, they say, wait a minute, you got to order some for us. So this is not all for me. Let me tell you what the Martineaus get when we put an order in. Well, pepperoni pizza, we usually get more than one of these. And then there's the works, a little bit of everything. And then this is the pizza that can be polarizing for some out there. I don't know why. Hawaiian pizza, some love it, some don't. At Donato's, you're gonna love it, especially with that cinnamon sprinkled on top. Try the pizza my family likes or try your favorite. Right now, you can use the code BRENT20 and get 20% off your order. Every viewer and listener is important to us, and at Donato's Pizza, every piece is important. From fresh ingredients to the dedicated team members and you, the valued customer. Donato's Pizza, where every piece comes together for a winning combination. Jack's Beach and Mandarin locations, Donato's Pizza, every piece is important.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Well, there you go. That is the playoff matchups for next weekend. We're looking at potential blowout. I'm gonna tell you what I might be crazy. I think Houston's going to beat the Chiefs.
No,
calling it early.
You're crazy.
They're going to beat the Chiefs.
Okay.
I don't know about the other one. We'll see. The Ravens-Bills game should be fantastic.
Say that again now that you're on camera.
There we go.
I think that Houston is going to beat the Chiefs. I'm calling it early.
Okay. Any like, do you know how?
Yeah,
like,
why?
Well, why? Well, because their defense is good. Like, C.J. Stroud is whatever. Obviously, he had a fumble-rooski play that turned into a big play that got him going. But before that, he was horrific. And the Chargers should have been up and put him out of their misery in the first half and didn't. And then Herbert was even worse. So, but I do think the one thing that you can say about that Houston team is their defense is really good. I mean, and metrically, it's been very good all year. And they're always there in the game. By the way, so is Kansas City's. Like, that's a game that's going to be right in the teens, right? I mean, early 20s at the most in terms of scoring. But I think it's going to be a 17-13 kind of game. It's a play or two here or there. I don't think anybody's running away with it with the Chiefs and Houston. And I just got a feeling that Houston is that defense is going to be good enough. Now, there's a lot working against them. I get it. Like Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Andy Reid's great after bye weeks. But listen, we know this rendition of the Chiefs isn't unbelievable.
Doesn't matter.
So
I mean, you're only playing the best coach and the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, and by the way, that works. It worked for 20 years for the Patriots when they weren't very good either, even at times. Like, I understand that, but I think people, you got to get. Basically, I think they got a break here, and when you get a break in that, I mean, they won 32-12. or something, right? So whatever it was. So it doesn't feel like they got a break. They should have been down big in that game. Like the Chargers should have really knocked them out early and didn't and missed the op. And I think it's going to give them a little bit of confidence. They've been here before. Like they got a little bit of that. Stroud did find something in that second half. I thought Slowick and Stroud and Mixon's a good back. I mean,
well, yeah. I mean, if it's going to be like a cold weather game, advantage Mixon. Maybe even advantage Houston offensive line. So, like, if you're trying to figure out a key to victory, I think if it's going to be a sloppy, snowy, cold game, that might actually benefit Houston a little more coming from the warm weather than it does Kansas City.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I was looking at Houston's defense, and obviously you got your edge guys, and the Fadakasi and Autry and others have really added to their line. Like, Fadakasi's playing way better than he did around here, which, by the way, might say something about
crazy.
What's that?
I said so is Smoot.
Yeah, which should say a lot, quite frankly, about the defensive coaching staffs the last couple of years. And listen, maybe they have better players, but here's where I'm going with this. I don't know how much better Houston has as players. I like our edge guys here in Jacksonville. I like their edge guys. The linebackers, I mean, they've got listen, Al Shirer's a good player. Even if we don't like him around here, he's a good player, but so is Foye Oluokun, right? Now, they don't have the weak spots maybe where you can take advantage of a Lloyd and that other teams have done. And at the corner position, Tyson Campbell is supposed to be like a Stingley or a Lassiter. The Jags are missing another corner to help complement them, but those guys are really good at the corner spot. So they have two good corners. They have two good edge guys. They've got a good linebacker in the middle. I mean, it's a legitimate defense. And again, all year it's been a very good defense. So if Stroud can do anything, and Mixon certainly is a nice helper, and obviously you got Nico Collins who's legit. I think they're put together pretty well if they can get out of their own way and play good football. The first 20 minutes, they can't do what they did against the Chargers, or they'll be down 17 points against the Chiefs.
Let's do a speed round of guess the line. Start with Texans Chiefs.
Oh, it's probably I'm going to say, because it's so low scoring, it's not as high as we think. I'm going to say it's 9.5.
Austin?
I'm going to go 6.5.
Winner Austin, 7.5.
Wow.
Okay, Commanders Lions in Detroit. Austin first.
Detroit's going to be, man, I'm going to say Detroit's going to be minus 8.5.
Bingo, you nailed it. Sorry, Brent.
What the?
Thanks for playing, Brent. Thanks for playing, Brent.
You can't beat it. You weren't gonna. There's no shot.
What did you want, man? Got it right in the head.
I could have matched it.
You would no. Never in the history of any of this have you ever matched.
I agree with Austin. Yeah. Well, when have you ever agreed with me in this? Come on.
All right, Ravens Bills.
Hey, can I go first?
Yes.
Good. Bills by 2.
Austin.
Bills minus 3.5.
Baltimore's 1-point favorites.
I think that's moved. I think I thought I had heard Bills were a favorite, but that doesn't surprise me. I mean, Baltimore beat them 35-10 the first go around.
Yeah, but in Buffalo though. But I guess okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the other first F-bomb on the show?
That wasn't the first time almost.
Oh, I mean, I guess because we got to wait on the Rams game tonight.
Oh yeah, we can't do the next one.
Yeah.
All right. So anyway, you heard it here first. Houston's going to beat the Chiefs.
All right. Is this kind of like your Texas pick from Ohio State or whatever that was? Then you picked Texas. No, what was the game you picked? Yeah, you said Texas was going to win.
I thought Texas was going to win. Oh, geez. 2nd and 1 at the goal line. Geez, how about just hand the freaking football off? Idiot.
Hey, it's the best red zone defense in college football, Brent. You got to keep them guessing.
Oh, I got to keep them guessing. Let's go backwards. More on that in a little bit.
I hear you, man.
Jeez, what a dumbass.
Wow. Brent's coming out on fire today.
Oh, boy.
Jeez,
Between that,
man.
You see, I kind of came out like, you idiots called timeout yesterday on Tampa. What are they waiting for? What are they waiting
losing
for?
Some money on Hard Rock Bet Live or something, man, because that was unwarranted.
Brent's huge thing is that coaches are overpaid, and every single week he gets to put out another tweet about how coaches are overpaid because they don't know how to manage the clock. And then we get Raheem Morris in the locker room. Who was he with? Was it with? It wasn't with Texas, was it? No, it was with James Franklin when he had some poor clock management. And then after the game, Raheem Morris was back in their locker room with them, and I was like, oh, Now we get it.
Yeah, I
Now
would say
we
so.
get it. Hey, do you guys think what's going to go on with Mike Tomlin? I don't know if they've even said anything yet this morning, but should they make a change? They've lost 6 consecutive playoff games. Should they? I get the fury a little bit in Pittsburgh, but I also tweeted this over the weekend. He's a victim of his own success. This team should not be in the playoffs. Like, that team should not be in the playoffs. That team is just very average, and they rolled out of the gates. And what were they, 10-2 at one time?
Yeah.
That was not a 10-2 football team. I mean, let's be honest. They were winning games like 18-16, and it wasn't logical. And then, because of that, when they go into the murderer's row part of the schedule, they get beat up, and they have bad feelings, and then they look bad the other day. They're just not that good. So, should they make a change in Pittsburgh?
I mean, if they do make a change in Pittsburgh, and I'm Shad Khan, I'm getting a helicopter, and I'm gonna put my boat right in the Three Rivers, one of the Three Rivers. I don't know, pick one, and I'm gonna meet with Mike Tomlin personally and give him a blank check, and then obviously I gotta get my boat out of one of the Three Rivers, which could be a process as well, but worth the money to get Mike Tomlin. I don't think Mike Tomlin's going anywhere. Like, I understand, and this is, I guess, see, because I'm trying to look at this like through teal lenses, and like I look at what Pittsburgh is, and I'm like, I think any Jaguars fan would kill to have what Pittsburgh has: constant winning seasons, constant playoff appearances. But then we have to think about, like, being a Steelers fan, what your expectations are. It's probably a little higher than that. At the end of the day, until you have a franchise quarterback, you're only as good as that quarterback's going to allow you to be. And yeah, Russell Wilson maybe overachieved a little bit. Justin Fields showed some glimpses, but until they get like a solidified quarterback that is your franchise, I'm going to cut Mike Tomlin some slack here. So I don't think he's going to go anywhere. And if he does, he better be coming to Jacksonville.
What do you think, Abby? Should they make a move in Pittsburgh?
No, they shouldn't make a move. I mean, look, you still got to look at the talent of the offense and the players on the offense. And based off of what Russell Wilson was, it was still a success based off of his last couple of years to get them to where they were. I guess the question is, would you rather go 9-7, 10-6, 11-5, or 9-8, 10-7, 11-6 every year with a first round exit, or be terrible for 2 years, 3 years in a row and make an AFC championship run? I think that's literally going to depend on the individual. A lot of fans are going to be tired because they would wish almost that, I don't know, I would never say that they would wish to be Jacksonville, but we've gone on deeper runs in the last 6-7 years than they have.
Well, listen, Mike Tomlin is such a good coach that they can't get like a high valued quarterback.
Yeah, they can't.
Like, they can't draft one. You're not going to draft high enough unless you give up the farm to trade up to take one of those guys. So you get Kenny Pickett, or you get a Justin Fields that Chicago didn't want, or you get Russell Wilson, who just kind of got bounced out of Denver.
We used to do this with Jack Del Rio when I first got here. And there used to be this thought where it actually felt like the Jags were going in the right direction, because when they actually did get rid of Jack, that eliminated the floor of being 5-11 or 6-10 or 7-9 at the time, hovering around 500, some good seasons, but never like or never like this 13-win season, but also never that 2-win season. And how many times over the last 15 years be like, Jack, please come back, right? But the sentiment at the time was there are 2 ways to do it in the NFL: win big or lose big. And when you lose big, well, Indianapolis is a better example of this. So they won big, and they were always in the playoffs, and they were doing things that they could compete for. Like, they were not like Pittsburgh backdoored into the playoffs. They were a team that, could win the Super Bowl. Tom Brady wasn't in the way every year, seemingly. But then the one year they really played terrible, they played terrible enough to get the pick to get Andrew Luck. Like, that's the way to do it, because that's what you can do.
Yeah, and I've told the story before, but like, we were so frustrated because I played against Manning and Luck, But we were so frustrated when, all right, thank God Manning's gone. All right, whoo, you almost breathe a sigh of relief a little bit because now it's like, okay, now this division looks a little more easier. And then they get Andrew Luck, and it's like, okay, well, he's not Peyton Manning. We should be all right. He's a rookie. And you see what he's capable of even as a rookie, and it's like, that's not fair. Like,
Yeah.
you just lost one generational quarterback. You're not supposed to get another, like, Pro Bowl, all-pro quarterback off the get-go. And that's what Indy got. And that was a frustrating thing to be a Jaguar.
Well, it was frustrating for everybody, I think, around the National Football League to lose like that and get that guy. Like, he was a generational guy, and in many respects they were correct, just not a long career. So, again, the mediocrity is not great in the NFL. You're not good enough to win it all. You're good enough to go to the postseason, but you're also not really good enough to advance. And Tomlin has done a terrific job of consistency, culture. You know who he is. Players love him. I like him. I mean, how can you not like Mike Tomlin? But they haven't been bad enough. He hasn't had a good quarterback in a decade. Ben Roethlisberger was a shell of himself by the end of it when the Jags are picking him up 5 times and things like that. He has not had a legitimate good quarterback in a long time. So I actually would look, if I'm Pittsburgh, and be like, well, we got to do a better job in our GM situation or our player acquisition. Now, they've done some good things, but wouldn't you I feel like you take the Jags roster over the Pittsburgh Steelers roster, like right now, to roll it out next week.
I think it's an offense for sure, but Pittsburgh's defense is pretty solid, Brent.
Smith and TJ Watt's hard to beat.
Well, and then you got Cam Hayward in the middle, which doesn't hurt.
Yeah, but again, like, how old's Hayward? He looks like he's 400 years old, but
hey, it doesn't matter, Brent. He's still playing at a very high level.
Yeah,
Dude's
he
still
is.
a beast.
But you get to the point where Pittsburgh, and we've done this before with Pittsburgh, where you get that hard-nosed team. They are you have this idea that they are a tough defense. That defense didn't look too tough the other night. They looked like butter the other night. And so what happens is you get old. See, Pittsburgh seems to be always getting it. I don't know if they just look old because it's cold and they got the beards and everything else, or they just are old. But that's what they feel like to me. They feel like they age, and they're not dynamic. And so anyway, if he were to be let go, I think everybody would say, oh, yeah, let's go get Tomlin. And while I would agree with that to some sentiment because he hasn't had a quarterback in a long time, and I would not pass it up, I don't. The one question I have, people are like, well, culture. Does he know how to replace a culture or build a culture? Because what he did there and had done a terrific job is continued a culture at Pittsburgh. Like, he didn't have to build that thing, right? He just kind of took over from Cowher. And that's a tough thing to do in its own right, is to take over for somebody who's been very good. And he's done a terrific job of that. So, yeah, I would sit here and look at everybody and be like, I'm not going to be the guy that says, no, I wouldn't be interested in Tomlin. I would be. Yeah. But I'm not sure I'd jumping over the moon as much as everybody else is about Tomlin, because you kind of wonder where the ceiling is. Or is it just the roster's not good enough? Well, I know where the ceiling is. He has won a Super Bowl. It's been a long time, though. So I don't know if he gets me that excited. He feels a little bit like Vrabel. My concern about Vrabel, and I know you like it from a culture standpoint, Austin, I wondered where can he, like, it's cool. Like, in one respect, it's okay to be here because Jags have not consistently been here, but can he take you all the way and stay at the top of it, I think, is another question that even Vrabel had, and I think we're asking a little bit similar things about even a Tomlin right now, and I don't know how much of that's roster versus the head coach. Mm-hmm. And we just said, hey, 9-8 and 9-8 isn't good enough around here, but that's kind of what it's been in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm a firm believer of Mike Tomlin. I think if you look at how he's done with distractions, because keep in mind, they've had their fair share of distractions as well.
Oh, yeah.
But it always kind of got swept underneath the carpet a little bit. Like, imagine you lose a once-in-a-lifetime, well, I don't say once-in-a-lifetime, but you lose an elite wide receiver. Was he there with Le'Veon Bell as well? I think he wasn't he?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You lose an elite running back, and you don't really miss a step, and you have constantly tried to replace the quarterback position after Big Ben left. And like you said, Brent, I mean, Big Ben was a shell of himself those last couple of years. So I do think Mike Tomlin's the real deal. I do think if somehow, and that's not going to happen, but if Pittsburgh was to let him go, if I'm Shad Khan, I do whatever it takes, man, because that's the guy that I feel like can make the biggest difference in terms of coaching. Sure, he hasn't won the big one in a while. That's fine, but what is he going to do with actually a pretty legit quarterback?
Yeah.
What does he have with a capable? Because I mean, this is the thing. We can sit here and say you can be a leader of men and you can change the culture around, but you still have to have the quarterback, right? And I think if he had a quarterback that was, obviously a franchise guy, like we'll see. Do you keep Justin Fields? Do you keep Russell Wilson? Do you keep them both? We'll see what they do there. But I think if once you have a franchise dude, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah, the problem is in that AFC North, too, for Tomlin, I'll almost be looking to get out because since he's got their quarterback, Baltimore's got their quarterback, and, well, whatever in Cleveland. But you got two teams that definitely have their quarterback, and they ain't going anywhere. They are there for a while. You better find one sooner or later. Around the Ball HQ says, Tomlin or Vrabel still give you the question of how our QB develops. I would answer that this way. First of all, if you have culture, and you know these guys are going to play defense, they're probably going to run the football, that is development of the quarterback. Like, they were able to win football games with Mitchell Trubisky. So the quarterback here in Jacksonville is better. That quarterback can develop actually kind of nice if you're good in the trenches and you have defense and everything else, I believe. So I think, and again, you still got to find the right offensive coordinator and things. And that's been a bit stale in Pittsburgh, too. Some of the guys they've had, from the Haleys to even Arthur Smith. I'm not a huge fan. But
I can't stand Arthur Smith, man. But that's my own journey with him and how he treated Kyle Pitts on my fantasy team. But that's another story.
Delphonic says, how many Super Bowls did Andy Reid win before Mahomes? Great coach, you need a QB. Yeah, you do need a QB. And even the good QBs aren't enough sometimes, as we found out this weekend. Talk a little bit about the quarterback situation around the National Football League when we come back. Let's take a timeout. I don't think the Steelers are letting him go, by the way. I mean, they have been a consistent organization. This comes up all the time. I don't think they're dumb enough to do it because, quite frankly, you look at that roster and you say, this guy's getting a lot out of the roster. That's the question we had in Jacksonville this year. Is the guy, in terms of Doug Peterson, getting enough out of the roster? And the bottom line is no. And then you look back at what we just said moments ago. You take Foley Fatukasi. That guy's not a bad football player. It might not have been a bad signing. Did they get enough out of him? No. You take DeJuan Smoot. Had a nice career here. He was starting to ascend. Obviously had the injury. It looks like Buffalo's getting more out of him. When the guys go to other places and they're getting more out of these players that you had, I think somewhere along the way you have to point the finger at coaching, and the Jags aren't getting enough out of this team. We applauded Doug for getting a lot out of him in 2022, but the bottom line is 23 and 24 didn't work that way. I think Tomlin certainly gets a lot out of that roster that he has. Yeah, some good players, some elite players, but not enough on the offensive side in today's day and age to be able to win and win big. Take a time out here in the Brent Austen Show, Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network. Trevor Lawrence, Shad Khan. Trevor Lawrence waits now, just like the rest of us, as he kind of said last week. I'll be watching for when the news comes in, and we'll see what happens. I don't think he's inside these interviews. What does the interview room even look like? And Hamby asks a wonderful question we'll get into next. It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Springs, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield.
2024 provided plenty of memorable moments for the Jacksonville Armada on the pitch, including another conference championship game appearance for Tommy Krasanovich's under-23 men's team.
It's in the dying moments.
Debuting this year for the first time, the girls in blue, as the Armada fielded a women's under-23 side in the WPSL and made its presence known with some highlight moments.
Potential goal of the season.
Then attention turned to the future, with MLS Next teams representing the Armada badge in 3 age divisions this fall, including an under-19 squad ranking among the best in the state. Those teams are a big focus on Fleet and Footy, covering the big soccer stories each week on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
I'll put one in the back of the note for you.
Join us for player profiles, fun interviews, and the very latest on the Fleet and all things footy. That's every Thursday at 2 p.m.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242.
You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing.
Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, save 10% off a new Rinnai tankless water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
Here on Spring Sports Media Day on Action Sports Jax.
It's an opportunity, an education beyond the classroom and the sports arena. Life skills, testing skills, social skills. It's called High School 912, a program focused on maximizing the growth of students in academics, sports, and life. And here's your chance to get involved. If you're a local business, or if you just want to make a donation to help support programs like ACT and SAT boot camps, career days, Leadership Academy, Financial Literacy Academy, and so much more.
All right, another Nice High School Panther, Jack Cole.
High School 912 supports and hosts high school sporting events and several media days throughout the year. For more information on how you can get involved, visit jaxhighschool912.com.
Baker Sports is local sports. Uniforms from Pop Warner and Little League to travel ball, high school, and college. They make you look good. They help you play good. Baker Sports has been helping families make memories that will last a lifetime with their Baker's Buckets. We've got a lot of these filled with baseballs and softballs in the garage. I've been throwing batting practice to Ty and Kaylee for years, and also sit on the Baker's Bucket, catching Kaylee while she practices her pitching. Baker Sports is homegrown, and a lot of employees that used to play on local ball fields now work for Baker Sports, now helping you look good, play good, and make memories of your own. Visit bakersport.com to see what Baker Sports can do for you. Custom apparel, Nike, Under Armour, Adidas, embroidery, screen printing, and more. Baker Sports is local sports from Jacksonville to anywhere in the Southeast. Bakersport.com.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Oh, Urban Meyer days. Yeah, I would say we got here because of Urban, but I don't think that's the case.
Hold on, was that Shoddy in the background doing jumping jacks?
Probably. Yeah. I was thinking about these guys the other day. You know, those guys have, whether it's Bevel or Schottenheimer, they've recovered okay from the Urban mess being on that staff. I kind of wondered about that and how that would be. And they've actually done okay, right? I mean, Schottenheimer, was Schottenheimer Dallas? Is that where he is?
Yeah, he's their OC.
Yeah, not bad. And Bevel, I saw, was getting some OC interviews. I think he's been down in Miami. if I'm not mistaken. And you kind of want it shows you the way the league works, though, right? These guys always come back and they recycle and everything else. But at the same time, I mean, a lot of that was out of their control. Those guys should write a book someday.
Ben Johnson's a Bevel disciple.
Yeah. And here's the other, the one other thing about the Urban days, which we all know they were bad. And you get a little bits and pieces here and there from like Trevor of just how bad it was. And it seems like when he talks about it over the years, it like the words get a little bit more profound or a little bit more, little more loud, if you will, right? A little more emphatic. And what he did the other day, like, what did he say? He said, he mentioned two words. I think he said turmoil and something else, like describe it, which is really the way everybody else was describing it. I think he was trying to use nicer words throughout the years. But now it's in hindsight 4 years. He's also said, I know good and bad. Like, I've been through it both. So it's like he is not afraid to acknowledge how bad the Urban stretch was that season. Brent Martineau Austen Lane. Jason Hamby here on a Monday, Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network. The Jaguars have 10 requests out. They've already interviewed Aaron Glenn, Patrick Graham, Ben Johnson, and Steve Spagnuolo. So left on the list, Brian Flores, Joe Brady, Liam Cohen, Todd Monken, Kellen Moore, and Robert Saleh. I think the only one we know that will exist is Saleh tomorrow. So we'll keep an eye on everybody else now that some of those guys are off that wild card weekend. Obviously, a guy like Cohen is out. Talk a little bit more about Cohen and Brady and some of these other candidates in the next little bit. But I thought Hamby had a terrific question today. Of those 10 candidates, Austin, who would you like to be in the room with, if you could, to be a part of the interview? You only get one. You get to sign up for an interview. And like, all right, I want to be in the room for this one.
Can we see the list again, please, Hamby?
Yep. Give me 1 second.
While you're doing that, I want to tell you about jaxpal.org, by the way. Jacksonville Police Athletic League, Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network, and Brent Austen Show have partnered up. And so you can be a part of it. Get your kids involved with the after-school programs. You can make a donation. How you can help out, jaxpal.org, the Jacksonville Police Athletic League. And these are the 10 candidates for the Jacksonville Jaguars that they've requested interviews for. Who would you like to be in the room with?
So I would like to be in the room with Aaron Glenn because that's the one out of, I would say, probably a majority of them where I'm not sure how it would go. I have a feeling I know how, like, for instance, Ben Johnson. What's up, Ben? How you doing? Good. What do you want? Okay, we'll see you later. Like, they're going to give him whatever. I feel like Aaron Glenn, I'm not sure, right? Because I think he's actually auditioning, right? Because he's been the coordinator, never been a head coach before, former player. Like, how is his personality going to translate through ownership, through Trent Baalke? I'm not sure. So I'd love to be a fly on the wall of that meeting.
Yeah, it would be a fly on the wall of all those meetings is around the Bowl HQ, and I couldn't agree more. Hamby, how do you answer your own question?
Yeah, mine would be Liam Cohen. Because the book on him was after that his first stint with the Rams, where he was like assistant receivers coach and all that with his time at McVay. Then he went back to the first time he went to Kentucky, and the story is that he had like 300 pages of plays that he learned from McVay that he wanted to implement. And they were kind of talking about it last night on the broadcast with how much the college game has the college offense has influenced NFL. Right, we're spreading it out more. We're talking about how they go 4x1 and all this stuff, and getting Mike Evans the ball. So how exactly, what all has he taken from McVay, and how could he think that he could implement that with the Jags' current roster so that he could get Brian Thomas the ball? How could he get the most out of Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby? Because that seems to be something that's been a kind of a reoccurring pain, I would say, for the last 2 years. So what all have you taken, and how is the college game? How would you want to implement that?
Yeah, I think it was interesting in the broadcast. Collinsworth talking about the just the run scheme that he wants to run, but he ran it to the strength of
right.
this team, right?
And Austin, that's all you've ever asked for, right? As the head coach, is to put your players in the best position to win. So I was like, when I heard that, I was like, oh, if Austin's hearing that, his ears just lit up.
Yeah. Oh, no, you're not wrong there. The reason I was laughing because I'm trying to picture like how that meeting would actually go with Trent Baalke, and he would just be like, hey, Mr. Cohen, go ahead and tell Shad Khan how good I did drafting these guys and tell me like how we can use Brian Thomas Jr. even better. Go ahead and tell Shad Khan how we can use Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, guys that I drafted as well. All right, thanks for your time.
It's that's interesting you said Cohen. Before I give my answer, it's
Nathaniel Hackett.
No.
Damn.
Before I give my answer, though, I think it's striking, which I mean, the chat's always good in the chat. Where are your answers in chat? I'm waiting for it because it's striking that you would go Glenn, and in part, I was thinking a little bit being in the room with Glenn, I think would be fascinating above everybody else. Now, I also put Saleh in my thought process, but I know Saleh. So,
exactly.
I feel like it's a little different. But doesn't that speak volumes about a guy like Glenn that says, hey, I'm interested in being in there because you might be able to feel that guy. You might be able to feel the presence, feel the culture that could be built, feel what he's all about. That says a lot to me about who you might want to have as your next head coach. I think that's interesting you brought him up. I know you wouldn't be alone, but I went there too a little, Austin. I was like, okay, I know the Jags, or I think the Jags are leaning toward an offensive mind. I think that is the right play this cycle for the Jaguars. But when you ask this question that Hamby brought up, I'm like, now put me in the room with that guy so I could feel that guy. Like I want to feel his presence. I want to feel what he's all about.
I think on the flip side, you'd rather feel that you'd rather be in the room for the offensive guys because we know the juice that Aaron Glenn brings. We know the juice that Saleh brings. But like, what does Liam Cohen look like as far as a leader and as far as a culture guy? And what does Ben Johnson even look like? That feel that you get, we've seen that from guys like Glenn. What does it look like from offensive young guys?
Sure. Well, we've seen it, Hamby, but is it going to gel with ownership? Is it going to gel with everybody? Right? Because, I mean, listen, a lot of people didn't really buy into Dan Campbell when he was bringing to the table, but the Lions did, and it worked out. And I'm not saying that Glenn's going to be exactly like Dan Campbell, but like, who knows? Maybe we're sitting in that meeting and maybe he bites one of our kneecaps and maybe we got to press charges. So we don't know what's going to happen. But I just think with Glenn, it's more, we don't know. Like, yeah, we don't know about Cohen either, right? And we don't really know about Ben Johnson, but like, I feel it's going to be a lot more analytical. It's going to be a lot more like, here's how we can get Trevor Lawrence better. Here's how we can get these players the ball and everything. With guys like Saleh and Glenn, it's going to be more of like a TED talk of like an inspirational, here's how we turn things around, at least I think.
Yeah, so that's good. Now, I'll caution this. Like, if you saw these kind of videos floating around about Gus Bradley back in 2013, you'd be like, oh, I can feel that guy too, right? Like that presence, that everything else. And I'm not sure Gus wasn't necessarily own the building guy either. I mean, there's a difference. And like I just put out here, the more I talk about it and more think about it, and we go back and look at what Doug Peterson did and didn't do. And again, I sit here all the time, like I think Doug's a good coach. But I think in this process, part of keeping Baalke, by the way, is Shad wants a coach-centric team. He wants the coach to kind of own the building without going overboard like Urban Meyer did. We've said that many times. I think the biggest misstep maybe for Doug Peterson was he was a little too passive in that sense. He was too almost partnership oriented with Baalke instead of being, this is my building. And I've said this many times. He should be the heavy in that building. He's got the Lombardi Trophy. He's seen it. He's seen how it works. He's got the better resume, in my opinion. And I don't know if he ever did that. And again, that's in many respects, you'd be like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like, he works as a partner. But I don't think that's what Shad wants. All right, Shad wants the guy that's going to be coach-centric.
Yeah, but maybe that's what got him in trouble a little bit in Philly, though, was kind of having that attitude. But at the end of the day, like, I agree with you, Brent. Like, if I was Doug Peterson, and when I interviewed for the Jaguars, I would do is I wear my ring and be like, you guys seen one of these before? No? Well, here, go ahead and touch this and see what it's like, because I know. Enough said. See you guys later. Thanks for having me. And that's all it would take.
And that's what the Patriots probably just got in Vrabel, a little bit of that, right? See he doesn't have to tell Kraft that, but he can tell the locker room, see what I did here? right? I know what it takes here. Right, I got Super Bowl rings. I've got touchdowns scored. I've got tackles and turnovers. I've got that stuff. I know what it takes. But he feels a little bit
with Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, but he feels a little more alpha in that sense, personality-wise, I think. And there is something to that. There's a fine line, man. There is a fine line between. I mean, Teddy Bruschi was critical this weekend of the Patriots' collaboration. Most people would say collaboration is a good thing. Schott is talking about collaboration, but I think Schott has to be careful of talking about collaboration if he wants a coach-centric organization, because you want that coach to be the guy and it filter down the rest. The collaboration can still come off that, but this is the guy still kind of setting the tempo, right? That guy's going to be able to do it. Hard to preach collaboration and have the guy doing that, because that's a little mixed messaging. I think Schott's got to be a little bit careful in these interviews to say, okay, we want this all together. We don't want too much ego. He said that, right? We don't want this sinister kind of urban-esque type stuff, but we still want coach-centric. Like, where is that balance? And quite frankly, Schott has to set that standard and find that balance.
And this is what I kind of talked about a little bit last week, and it was one of my biggest fears of how this coaching search was going to go, is retaining Trent Baalke, but also saying, like, everything's on the table. You know, say what you want about Poles in Chicago, but at least they're committed to him. You know, they've said, like, he's our guy. Trent Baalke, it's like, yeah, he's our guy until he's not our guy. And, like, it's crazy, because on one side you can say, okay, if you're a coach, be like, okay, that's cool. Like, I can kind of have my say, like, I want Trent Baalke here or not. I can get my own GM. Fantastic. But on the other side, you can go, well, this team doesn't really have a vision. Like, they're not really, like, staying their case for anything. It's just, okay, we'll see. It's kind of up to you. And no one's really taking the leadership. And I wonder if that's going to come back to bite them, Brent.
Yeah, Colin says, what changes about Baalke's role? Will he move to a coach-centric organization? Do we know what coach-centric means to Schott? I think that's what I'm asking. I don't necessarily know that. I have in my mind, I have being that alpha guy, being Andy Reid, you think of the Chiefs, like he's the guy in that organization. So I want to make sure I feel that guy is the guy. He's the guy leading the charge, but I also don't want him to feel like Urban Meyer, right? I mean, there's just this, I don't know, man. There's this in between somewhere in there. I don't know how big that gap is. I don't know what it's supposed to look like. I'm not sure Schott does either, quite frankly. And maybe that's been a little bit of the problem. But I think he has to express that. I think he has to articulate that. I think he has to be transparent about that. He's got to set that standard of what he wants. Okay, I haven't answered the question. I haven't answered Hamby's question. Hamby went with Cohen. You went with Glenn. I like your Glenn answer probably more than the Cohen answer. I get where, listen, learning the offensive side of things too is fascinating to hear these guys talk offense. I think that would be intriguing, but it almost would be over my head at times, sure, what those guys know.
Yeah.
I'm actually going with Ben Johnson here after some thought. And the reason why I'm going with Ben Johnson is not because of the offensive side. I think he is the one. Now, listen, they all should do this in an interview, but I think he is the one guy that will interview them the hardest. I think the Jags are being interviewed. Schott even admitted that, right? He's like, I want them to interview us as well, what we're all about. Well, I think he is the one guy, at least perception or what we see and read. Hey, he has a certain way that he wants this thing set up. He's seen it in Detroit. He knows what it should look like. He's seen it in Miami where it didn't always work. And so what does he see about the Jaguars organization from that standpoint? That, first of all, he would need to implement if he were to be the head coach here. But let's even forget about him being named the head coach here. What does he see? Like, what does he see inside those buildings that he's asking about if this one has or doesn't have? What does he see about Trevor Lawrence? Not that, hey, yeah, great, he's got a big contract and we think he's good, but what does he actually see? What's he asking about Trevor Lawrence? So I think listening to Ben Johnson kind of pick the Jags apart a little bit from a guy who's seen it flip in Detroit and work might be the most educational part of this process that I could sit in on. But really, might be the most educational part of this process for Shad Khan, whether Ben Johnson is the next head coach or not, Austin.
No, it's not a bad call. And I think, if somebody was going to actually interview the team that's interviewing them, it would be Ben Johnson. So then I guess the question comes, because we broke this down a lot. We talked about this a lot. A lot of NFL pundits have talked about this, where Jacksonville may have the best destination to go to in being a new head coach. If they interview Ben Johnson, which has already been completed, and it comes out and says that he has no interest in coaching the Jacksonville Jaguars, should our ears perk up a little bit? Should our spider senses be going off and saying, "Uh-oh, what's going on then?" Because once again, I think if anybody's going to do their due diligence, I think if anybody's going to try to nitpick and ask the hard questions as a head coach or a soon-to-be head coach, it's going to be Ben Johnson.
Yeah, listen, Delphonic says, I wonder what Johnson would say about Trent. That's part of this. If Ben Johnson is not the coach here, whether this is the real reason why or not, the reason that it's going to be believed is because of Trent Baalke.
Sure.
Flat out. It doesn't, even though many people in Chicago say, hey, we got a better job to offer. And that might be the ultimate. Maybe Ben thinks that too. Maybe he wants to be in that division. Maybe he wants to be in Chicago. But the bottom line is here in Jacksonville, the reason he is not the coach, if he's not the coach, is because of Trent Baalke. And there might be something to say, and that might be part of the equation. We don't know that.
We just talked about, though, you guys kept on breaking it down, how it's the division, though. Look at the division in Chicago compared to the AFC South. Like, why would you want to go to that division then?
Well, I wouldn't want to. I'm just saying he might.
Why would he want to? Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Just because Chicago, history, if you're the guy that wins in Chicago, again, I don't think he wants any of that. So, it doesn't seem to make sense from everything we hear that he would want the bigger market, that kind of stuff, all that. But some guys do. There are plenty of guys that would rather pick Chicago over Jacksonville. Doesn't matter who they're playing, as you've mentioned before.
No, I have. But I truly feel like if Ben Johnson was to pick Chicago over Jacksonville, and maybe it's got to do with history, maybe it's got to do with,
Caleb
being in
Williams.
the division, maybe it's got to do with Caleb Williams, but I think it's got to do a little bit in terms of a vision, in terms of ownership.
Yeah.
Where you had one owner who stuck by his GM, even though maybe fans in Chicago don't agree with that. And you have another owner in Jacksonville that kind of left it open-ended, that didn't really make a case for or not having him, and it just kind of up in the void a little bit, and I think that could have something to do with it.
Yeah, it'll be. I think it would be a fascinating one, because let's just say he is interested. Many people believe he is interested in this job, and I believe he's interested in this job. You don't just come take an interview just to take it. He passed over some others, it looks like. So I would be fascinated, first of all, how he views the organization, what he sees, and also then that dynamic. How aggressive does he get in the, okay, we can do better here? And how does that conversation take place? It would be wild to be in these interviews just to see how they go. It really would.
What would be more disappointing, if Ben Johnson goes to Chicago or if Ben Johnson goes back to coach, be offensive coordinator as the Lions again?
I think
Chicago for sure.
Really?
Yeah. I think the Lions.
I agree with you, Austin. I was thinking about it, but I was leaning toward you. That was my first response. Because
Hamby, go. Okay. Sorry, Brent, go ahead.
Well, no, you go ahead, Hamby. Why Chicago? Why so adamant?
Look, it's like it because he didn't choose. It's on. The girl didn't choose another guy. She just chose to be single. It's better. If she chooses somebody else over you, then you feel worse because you didn't measure up to him. If neither of you measured up, then you feel a little bit better.
Yeah, I guess.
It's not a bad.
I guess. Listen. Hats off. The guy. If the guy's good looking, got a lot of money, I can deal with it. Now, if you're telling me, it's not that, then I've really got some self-conscious problems.
Listen.
But
okay, Hamby, it's a good point, and this happened to me one time. Okay, not breaking any news here. This
just
is
one time.
Story. If I'm pursuing a girl that I thought liked me, thought that was into me, thought I had maybe the best thing to offer, and maybe there's another competitor out there who, this other dude, he's got something to offer as well, but I'm not really worried about him, right? He's with a bunch of other dudes who are a little more intimidating. My crew's a little more, they're just, beta, I guess you would say, like that they're not that impressive. Okay, we have the Texans that are pretty legit, but Titans are down here. Titans, the Colts are down here, so I'm looking pretty good. I'm feeling myself. And all of a sudden, maybe I take her out and I wine her and dine her, and it turns out that she's not interested. Maybe she likes girls the whole time, and I didn't even know it, right? And maybe this happened to me one time. I'm going to be so disappointed in myself, Hamby, for not recognizing, for thinking that I had like this great thing to offer, and she was never interested in the first place.
Yeah, we should put the Raiders in this category too, but Bears Raiders. I don't get the Raiders thing. I get why he takes the interview. I don't think it even measures up. Like that you're not going because of Tom Brady. All right. By the way, I thought Brady. First time I listened to Brady in the booth. And
bad, isn't it?
No, I don't think it's as bad as everybody said.
Man, he was getting some $38 million for him to say, "Wow, oh, look at this."
Yeah, I thought he actually had. I'll tell you what, though, in that game, which game was he doing again?
Philadelphia.
The second game.
Philly and Green Bay.
See, he pointed out something that I was thinking, and I was like, okay, I thought that was a pretty good observation. Like he said, Josh Jacobs was the only guy playing with energy, with, hey, this is the postseason, raising their level. I thought when he said that, I was like, hey, that's a good observation. At least I felt the same way about the way he was running and everything else. Like everybody else, it was like a normal game in December. And you know this, Austin. Like they'll tell you in the league, preseason to regular season, it's a huge jump. Regular season to postseason, it's a huge jump. It was like the only guy that took that jump yesterday was Josh Jacobs, and I thought actually Brady noticed it. That was just one example of I thought him doing a good job.
No, and then he was also calling out Jalen Hurts, on the quarterback designed runs and really throwing the quarterback designed runs underneath the bus in terms of injury. Because if anybody knows about quarterback designed runs, it's Thomas Brady.
Thomas Brady.
Give me a break.
Hey, so anyway, I'm bothered by him going back to Detroit as well. You, if that's the answer. I can live with, hey, Chicago, bigger market, Caleb Williams, all the stuff. Like, I can live with that. I think it's debatable, honestly. I think Jags are a better option for a lot of people, but not for everybody. So it's debatable. I mean, that's with or without the GM stuff. You can even take the GM out of both places, and I think you can make an argument for Chicago. That's clear as day to me. I think I would not like him going to Detroit and swinging and missing on another opportunity because it says he doesn't like what Shad Khan's selling him. It says way more about the organization. It's like, wow, wait a minute. This is the best candidate here who's going to pass up $50 million with no state income tax, with a quarterback that most people would sign up for.
Easy division.
In an easy division. And he's going to say, nah, I'm better off being the OC with Jared Goff in Detroit. I mean, it's winter in Detroit. Football's fun, but shoot, it's like 10 degrees for 5 months. Like, I would really be bothered by that. I would say the Trent Baalke people, you win on that. Like, I would say, but even the Shad Khan folks that are really critical, I think that goes to Shad too. So
it goes to everybody, bro.
That would really.
It goes to us too. I would feel responsible somehow.
I would not. No, I would not.
Okay,
I wrote a damn article about this. I mean, I tried like hell to get Ben Johnson. So I would not feel bad. I've done my part. But I do think it would say a lot internal. It's a look in the mirror moment for Shad Khan, quite frankly. And you can say it already is or whatever, but it would really be if the top guy in the cycle basically has two really good options right now. Even let's put the Raiders aside. He has two really good options or go back home. And he chooses to go back home.
Yeah.
That would be that'd be bad. That'd be bad. Because again, now Austin and I disagree at the top of the show a little bit that, hey, you could go back and have another chance next year. I don't believe that. So that I'm also in that camp of saying, hey, this is your opportunity, man. You can't keep passing them up. You got to go get a job and find out if you're good at it. And I know we can all disagree on that, but if you marry that thought that I have on top of, hey, I am going to go back home and take that job for whatever amount of money less and go back to Detroit and all this stuff and miss an opportunity to have a quarterback, to have what we feel like is a good owner. And I know people are critical of Shad, but the perception around the league is this is a good owner to work for and with. Well, then that would start to change a little bit.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Go ahead.
I think, I mean, listen, I hope that when they interviewed Ben Johnson, they put your manifesto in front of them, your article, and just show like, hey, this is the kind of media talent that we have here in Jacksonville. If it's a little more incentive to come here, let's go for it. But no, I think it does speak volumes, though, where if Ben Johnson was to go back to Detroit, because this is a guy who knows what it looks like, right? Who obviously in Detroit, they've had support from their general manager, they've had support from their owner, and it's like this cohesive unit. And I think if he was to go back to Detroit, and what happens, like, I mean, with Aaron Glenn, I feel like Aaron Glenn's a little more, I don't wanna say desperate, but obviously I think Aaron Glenn's got to strike now more than Ben Johnson. But let's just say for whatever reason, Glenn goes back and Johnson both go back after interviewing with the Jaguars. That's not good, Brent. Because then it's like, okay, they saw something that rubbed them the wrong way because they know what it's supposed to look like. And for whatever reason, Jacksonville doesn't have that quite yet.
Yeah, and by the way, I would say this about a lot of the organizations that are looking for a job. I mean, they should feel the same way, too, right, as the Jags, but that doesn't make you feel better in Jacksonville. Let's take a time out. Brent Austen Show here in the Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network. Hey, when you're watching the playoff game tonight, maybe next week in the college football playoff game, next weekend full of games, hey, why cook? Just sit back and watch and go get Bono's Pit Barbecue. Bono'sBarbecue.com, 20 locations in Northeast Florida. Check them out online. Because download the app. Become a rewards member as well. Get things for free. You know Bono's Pit Barbecue. There ain't a pit. It ain't legit. If you need a quality play this football season at your home, call That One Painter First Coast. Locally owned and operated, experienced employees, no builder-grade materials. And there's more, and for that, we throw it to Noah Schlicksup. That One Painter First Coast can apparently help your kicking game, too.
Well, after my failure on skinny sticks last year on Creekside game day, I've spent a lot of time out here at Creekside practicing my kicks. There's only one issue. How is that even possible? The good news is I know exactly who can help. That One Painter can handle all your painting needs, from field goal posts to cabinets to stucco. They got you covered. Though they may not be able to help with my kicking, they can certainly help with the posts. Call That One Painter First Coast today for all your painting needs at 904-495-1373.
People helping people. It's at the core of what Alive Credit Union is all about, and it's been that way for over 70 years. From the start in 1954 to today, the mission remains to inspire financial wellness and give you a financially fit lifestyle. Alive Credit Union and its employees are committed to not only serving their valued members, but also our community here in Northeast Florida. I had a chance to see that commitment firsthand as Alive partnered with our Action Sports Jax 24/7 team to bring you Armada men's and women's soccer broadcasts. Inside the 18, it is a shot, and it's a goal! Chloe Chivers! And that connection to the community continues with Alive Credit Union's support of the Police Athletic League of Jacksonville. Alive Credit Union's commitment to our community also involves serving the financial needs of all first responders through the recent merger partnership with City and Police Federal Credit Union. Join the community and become a member of Alive Credit Union today. Find out the many ways you can be inspired in financial wellness at alivecu.coop.
Burgers or breakfast, you can get it all at Whataburger. Try something new on the menu or an all-time favorite like the Whataburger Patty Melt.
And now you can have breakfast here at Whataburger 12 hours a day, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m. Menu items like the bacon taquito, sausage taquito, honey butter chicken biscuit. Whether you work the late night shift, just want a snack early in the morning to get your day started, or a little pick-me-up late in the morning, 12 hours a day, breakfast served, 11 p.m. until 11 a.m.
A dozen locations in Jacksonville. You can order pickup or delivery and download the Whataburger app. New rewards members get free Whataburger items when placing their first online order. Just download the app. And for us coffee drinkers, Whataburger has all new hot coffee and iced coffee too. Satisfy that coffee craving at Whataburger 24/7, and it comes in a variety of flavors. Burgers, breakfast, coffee, and so much more. Whataburger, just like you like it.
for the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jags Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive your passion.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
There's the college football playoff. One guy got it right. I'm sure more than one guy got it right. One guy here got it right. Ohio State, Notre Dame. Maybe Austin got it right too. I know he liked Ohio State, but I'm not. I think he was leaning Oregon, and he thought the national champ would come out of Ohio State, right, or Oregon game.
Yeah, basically I said I liked Ohio State, but for my son I'm picking Oregon, but whoever wins the Ohio State-Oregon game can win the whole thing.
Yeah, I think you probably have a good chance at that happening too. I think Ohio State obviously a clear favorite against a banged-up Notre Dame team. Even if healthy, I think they would still be a clear favorite. This time of year, you know, it's like chilly out. It's raining now today a little bit. It seems like things start to go wonky at the beginning of the year, like inside your home. If that's the case, make sure you check out CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing and get everything updated the way it needs to be. Test that water out. Give them a call, 888-CGC-4H20 or cgcwater.com online for special offers. Got some exciting things happening with CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, by the way, coming up here in 2025. We'll tell you more about that as we roll on over the next couple of weeks and months ahead. Brent Martineau, Austen Lane, Jason Hamby here on a Monday, trying to find the next head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's part of it. But the college football playoff, I mean, I said it earlier, Hamby, you love this college stuff. I don't know what Sark was doing on 2nd and 1. Like, I don't get the idea. I've said this multiple times this year, and I know fans are sinister, right? Fans think bad things are going to happen like a lot. It's hard not to do that. And the total opposite is the case when you're a coach and a player. They think good things are going to happen all the time. And by the way, that's the way you should think. Think about when you played ball in high school or anywhere else, or Austin obviously is still doing it and competing at a high level. You don't think bad things are going to happen. You play it out the way you need to play it out. But take Austin's profession right now. He also has to think about what move could get him in trouble.
Correct.
And I don't think guys think of this enough, Amby. I think Sark, at 2nd and 1, it's like the worst play call possible because that could happen.
It's the same point we made Jags Philly on first down.
First down. That's right.
We didn't think about the worst case scenario. I'm with it. I agree. Sark definitely would like to run that one back and choose something else, but I don't know. I thought there was a lot more in that game than just that, and I'm sure you would agree, but I don't know. I like Sark. I think he's a great play caller. I just think that was just one bad play. and one bad choice. And I guess you could say, yeah, for how much he's getting paid, that you can't afford that in the most crucial moment of a game like that. But I almost thought they were lucky to be in that one, to be honest with you.
Well, I guess so, yeah. But I mean, that play call was so bad, it goes right up there with, as my kid said, Seattle and the Patriots, Austin.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm not as like I don't know, man. Because here's how I look at it. Hindsight's 2020. Yes. Was it a bad call? Well, yes. You had the ball at the 1 yard line. But I get when because to me there's two types of coaches in football. There's the types of coach that are so stubborn beyond their good graces that they'll get themselves in trouble just by being so stubborn. Classic example, Nick Sirianni when he plays the Jacksonville Jaguars. For whatever reason that game, they played the Jaguars, the tush-push was not working. But Sirianni was so stubborn that he gave up points on the board that would put him well ahead, that would put him in a safe distance to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, that he would rather let his pride win out and say, I know we're the tougher team. The tush-push doesn't fail. Let's try to put it in. And Jacksonville stopped them. And then there's the others coaches that almost err on the side of caution so much where it's like, we are not winning the trench battle right now. They have our number. They have a number between the tackles. So I'm not even going to try to run the football because I don't like up the middle, because I'm not going to try to give them more of an advantage. I'm not going to try to give them more of energy to feed off of. So I think that's what Sark was thinking. Now, once again, hindsight's 2020. He shouldn't have did it. Maybe he should have relied on his running back and his offensive line a little more. But I get when you're going against Ohio State and they have their horses in the middle and it seems like all is lost where you cannot run the football and you don't want to give them any more of an incentive to get more energy, even though you ended up doing it anyways.
Yeah, I just don't get it. There's so much that you could run from there. You could put Manning in. I mean, you could do so many things there, and I get respect in the opponent. I think you have to be a little bit careful to respect the opponent too much. Like there's a balance. There's just a balance, and I think he got afraid of them in the interior. Their defense is very good. Their defense very good, but he's a very good play caller. I mean, how many plays can you call at 2nd and 1? I mean, the defense is on their heels. The pressure's on the Buckeyes. And he ran sideways out of the play started at the 9-yard line. The ball went from the 1, and then the play started at the 9.
Yeah.
It doesn't make... The other thing that gets me, when you're playing really good teams, Austin, this is the one thing that I watch games, I'm like, why are you running sideways? Why is anybody running sideways? And you know it. I mean, if you're a punt returner, don't run sideways, get up and get north and south.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If you're a back, get north and south. Well, there's a reason for that, because when you're playing really good team, like in the NFL, the speed's so good, you're not going to run sideways and get away from anybody most of the time. It seems like a good idea. It's never a good idea. And then college football, when you're playing this elite level ball, it's the same type of thing. I mean, the speed is usually so good. And that's what happened. I mean, they had 3 guys to block 4, and they beat them to the punch on that play. I just thought, I mean, it's very... I think players make plays. I think coaches mess up some things, certainly, but players make plays. That one to me just, he lost them the game with that call. Like they had no chance after that. And you're right, Hamby. Ohio State was the better football team most of the day, but Texas had a chance to steal that. And you know where all the pressure goes?
Yeah.
Now, I don't think he would have gone for 2 there, but all the pressure goes to Ohio State in overtime, Austin, there, because they're the ones that are supposed to be winning that game and probably pulling away and walking into a championship game.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong there. You know, I just think that there's the cautious coach, and then there's like the over, embellished, where I'm just like, I don't care what the situation is. I'm going to inflict our will because I'm that confident. And I'm not saying which side's better or not. I mean, I think people want to hate on Dan Campbell sometimes and people like Sirianni, and people want to celebrate Dan Campbell and Sirianni sometimes. So it's kind of like pick your poison. I err on the side more of Sirianni and Campbell than I do of what I saw with Texas and Ohio State. I would have tried to run the football if it was me. But I understand maybe you're being a little scared, but at the end of the day, when you're in the semifinal, there's no room to be scared anymore. Like, you have to have faith in your guys and let them make plays, or else what the hell are we doing?
Yeah, you got to go get it, Hamby. Hamby, I think we saw a little bit of this with Tomlin, too. Tomlin, it was like third, and I mean, it was fourth and a nose of a football in that game. And I give Dan Quinn credit. He kept going for it. And that he's like, this is the mentality we're going to have today. Now, I can't believe they won the football game, leaving that many points on the board. Yeah. Usually you don't. But at least he had the mentality, right? That, hey, we're the underdog. We're on the road. A rookie QB hasn't won in like a dozen years. We're playing with a bit of house money here. We're going to go get this thing. And we're going to tell that's probably was the message all week. It was a message Saturday night. I understand Pittsburgh doesn't play that way all the time, but you need to do it. And he made another call later in the game, like not late, and he went for something or was aggressive. And I was like, well, if you're going to be aggressive there, why weren't you aggressive in the early going? You got to kind of set that standard. You don't have to be kamikaze style here, right? Like you don't have to go crazy. But
Campbell.
Like a little bit of Campbell sometimes. Like if it's 4th and 7, dude, you might want to kick the field goal. But if you're within an analytics go sign, if you choose, hey, this is the way we're going to play the game today, until the game changes late, which you can back off that plan, I think it's a good way to go. And Hamby, I think that's a wrestling match right now with coaches, both at the collegiate level and the NFL, maybe based off analytics, but I actually always point back to Doug Peterson helped change that. Doug Peterson against Bill Belichick and the Patriots, and that season helped change that. The aggressive coach, the aggressor won. And it wasn't the conservative style that won. And I actually think Peterson has played a role in that over the last 7 or 8 years, kind of changing the psyche of some of these coaches.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, because obviously we see more fourth down now than it seems like we probably did from 2010 to 2020 combined. In this, I don't have the stats in front of me, but that's what my guess would be.
I would think you're right.
Yeah, especially with Dan Quinn, like last night, it's just like once you do it once, you almost have to do it as long as you're in that same situation, right? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, Hamby, the guy wears his hat backwards. What'd you expect? He's a wild card.
Yeah.
Okay? If you're going to wear your hat backwards and be a grown man, guess what? You're probably going to risk it for the biscuit a little bit.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think I wouldn't be surprised if in a few years we kind of see a turn the other way where there are more, I don't know how long this is going to take, but eventually we'll get to a point where taking points unless it's 4th and 4 feet or less is going to be our optimal play based off of situations. I don't know. Maybe that's never going to happen because of just how offenses are so much more spread out. So they have so many more options, so many RPO, running quarterback, all that stuff. But I feel like eventually we gotta regress a little bit, almost to the means a little bit.
Yeah.
But
go ahead.
Go ahead, Brent.
No, you go ahead.
I disagree though, because I think, and we've seen this with Dan Campbell a lot. Now we're seeing this with Quinn a little bit, where when you gamble and go for it on a 4th and 2, 3, 4, whatever the case may be, you're telling your players that I believe in you. And I think there's a sense where if you take your players off the field and you kick a field goal, I think that can rub some players the wrong way. Now, maybe you go for it, you risk it for the biscuit, and you don't get it. I think the players will still respect you even more for having, believing them to go for it and not get it, as opposed to kicking a field goal. Now, sometimes it comes down to wins and losses. I understand that, and they got to live with it. But I get what Dan Campbell does. I get what Dan Quinn does when he goes, guys, we're in this together, and I believe in you. So go convert this thing. Let's go score, and then, let's go celebrate when we win.
Yeah, I don't mind the attitude. I think you just got to be who you are. I mean, Dan Campbell, again, I think also going to come with a lot of criticism when you do that, because you can be over the top in who you are. That Dallas game, he was over the top in who he was. Like you have to have a sense of when to pull back. You would preach to your players the same thing, right? Hey, let's go make a play. Let's be aggressive in this play, but hey, take care of the football. Don't be reckless. Okay, sure. Well, you're being reckless as a coach. So you've got to have that balance. But I love the aggressive attitude. I think we've been saying for years and years, like, why are guys punting? And remember there was that guy who never punted in high school. There was a story in the USA Today about him or something, and he never punted.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, Well, to me, that makes some sense. Like, why? First of all, in high school, why would you punt anyway? Because a guy is going to kick it about 14 yards. But now, like, it's different in the NFL. The punters are weapons. I mean, look at Logan Cook. He is a weapon for you. He can change, actually, the game for you in some circumstances if you're not 32nd in the league in defense. But have a way that you are and stick to it for the most part is okay. I would actually suggest that Doug got away from even that this year. You're an aggressive guy. You wrote a book about being aggressive, about winning the champ. I mean, yeah, they went for it on some fourth downs, but they didn't fake a punt. They didn't fake a field goal. I really thought they should have gone for it against Indianapolis in the final game, like 4th and 3. That's who you are. Like Dan Campbell would have gone for it. Now, is Doug to that level aggressive? Maybe not, but I think we lost some of the aggression of Doug Peterson over the last year. So, yeah, I can live with it. Who you are, and I really appreciate it when you know when to pull back the reins a little bit. And again, we tipped our cap to Doug in that first season where it's like, all right, Doug, I get it. You want to go for it all the time, but you're going to have to help these guys across the finish line and win. They don't believe in it yet as much as you do. And I'll never forget, I mean, we talk about it all the time. We refer to it. It was the Raiders game. He had 2 4th-and-1s in that Raider game, I think it was, and he kicked a field goal both times. And they actually missed the first time. And they got the second one, but the second one was the reason why they ended up beating the Raiders. It was like the difference in the game. And I was like, oh, see, that's good. That's what we were kind of saying. It's like, hey, yeah, you can be super aggressive, but these guys don't know how to win yet. So you actually have to help them across the finish line. And then I think that snowballed. I mean, that Raiders game ended up snowballing into some other things. Aggressive against the Baltimore Ravens, right, with the 2-point conversion. Aggressive to the point where these guys didn't give up against Dallas and picked 6th and 1 and Tennessee. Like, that's a thing that really breeds more of it throughout your football team. But really the magic in all of that is when not to do it. As a player and as a coach. Be interesting to see this week for Dan Quinn, Austin. Obviously, major underdog against Detroit. You got guys, like, we may have 10 attempts on 4th down in this football game. But will he be over the top in it? Or will he make the right decisions on when to be smart about it and have that feel for the game or whatever else? Now, we're going to second guess the hell out of it either way if it doesn't work. That's just the nature of it. But you got to have a feel for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be an intriguing matchup just because you have 2 coaches that want to take all the risks, so that can make for an exciting matchup. I mean, do both of them try to risk it for the biscuit? Does one of them maybe back off? I mean, if one of them's going to back off, it's going to be Dan Quinn. I don't ever see Dan Campbell backing off of anything. But does Dan Quinn become a little more conservative and say, all right, maybe let's let Detroit shoot themselves in the foot a little bit and then take advantage of that? So it's not going to be like a cerebral chess match in terms of how aggressive do you want to be in this game.
Let's get Hamby back in for one more thought, because we started this with college football and Sark and all that stuff. I want to just end it. We got a week to talk about the college football stuff, but it's a week from tonight. And I think Hamby brings up a good point today in some of our topics, and I think it's a fascinating one. I think most people don't like – you either love Notre Dame or you don't. There's no middle ground on Notre Dame across the country. I really think Ohio State has become that kind of team across the country.
100%.
I think it happened a little bit ago, quite frankly, but I think it now happens. I think if you take other teams, like USC doesn't feel this way. Texas doesn't feel this way to me. Alabama feels this way. You either love Alabama or you don't like them. Like, they have become that even for me. I'm like, okay, anybody but Alabama. And
yeah.
So, but Ohio State is that, right? Do you guys feel that same way?
Ohio State hated?
Yeah, either you love them or you hate them.
Oh, I think so. Here's the thing. I think you're a direct representation of your coach. Like, yeah, I think people still hate Alabama because it's Bama, but Nick Saban had a lot to do with that, how he carried himself. I think Marcus Freeman has almost like turned around the perception now of Notre Dame, has actually made them a little more likable than people want to give them credit for. And I think Ryan Day is on the exact opposite. I think people dislike Ohio State a lot simply because of Ryan Day.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of it has to do with even going back to the Urban Meyer days, and people are just so tired of that, and it snowballed so many different aspects from the roster construction with the $22 million or whatever it is, which Herb Street did make a good point about how a lot of that was spent on retaining their players and their whole team wasn't bought and sold like Ole Miss. They didn't go buy 15 new players because 9 out of their 11 starters on defense are third and fourth year guys at Ohio State. There's a little bit of a misconception there, but most people still don't know that, so they still hate it because they're the highest paid roster in college football. And even the stuff with the flag planting, we have some I don't know what his title is, some government official in Ohio who was trying to make that ban flag planting on opposing universities. Yeah. That was just like the clowniest thing ever. So it's like people have, even if that's just one more bullet, it's still more ammo for people to hate Ohio State. And to some degrees, Notre Dame for decades and decades has always been this way. Ohio State, you could make the argument they're more hated just because they've been better in the last decade. Like Notre Dame's still been good and they've been in the playoff mix and all this stuff, but they haven't necessarily been national title contenders. They never really worked with Brian Kelly. You always knew they were going to kind of phase out at the end. Well, this is the first year that they haven't phased out at the end, but Ohio State's been there year in and year out for the most part since the playoff inception. So for the same reason that people hated Bama because they were always in and they got tired of them, people in the same right are kind of tired of Ohio State.
Yeah, but I think Austen brings up a great point, too, because listen, Notre Dame's always been like this. Love them or hate them, one way or another. Ohio State definitely has that feel the last. You're right. I think Urban, that's a good point, Hamby. Urban kind of led to this. Tressel's kind of the only guy in the last 20 years that he seemed like a likable dude. Mm-hmm. I mean, Mr. Rogers vest and everything else, right? Sweater or whatever. So, but I think Austen's right about Freeman. How do you not like Marcus Freeman? Yeah. And you could not like Saban, the antics, the kind of like what. And actually, Saban's
Don't
more
ask
like.
me about it. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, Saban's more likable now, right? Like now, it's like he's really likable now. He's on TV, but nobody felt that way unless you were a diehard Crimson Tide fan. Plus, they became the Duke and Yankees and that kind of team. So it's wild to me that. Yeah, I think you got a lot of people rooting for Notre Dame in this game, and Freeman looks like the real deal. I'll say one more thing. We've asked this question around here a lot, and got so many college football fans, and everybody's asked for years and years since I've been in town. When is the U going to get back? Like, when's Miami going to get back? And the answer to that, what I found after years and years of talking about it and being asked, is that listen, you're never getting back to that Miami. And the reason why, in some respects, is you can't do it anymore. The landscape has changed. Like, that was a bad boy team in many respects. Like, you can't have that kind of team, I don't think, in today's day and age. I just don't think it would. And you can't mimic that and duplicate that. That is a very hard thing, just the personality alone. So Miami's never getting back to that Miami. But I'll tell you what, most people say, when's USC getting back, or when's this team? Texas was a question for a long time. Nebraska's getting back. They were asking about Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has a chance on Monday night to get fully back. And they've actually been part of the national conversation now for almost a decade. They actually have come back from the dead because they weren't playing the same game for about 20 years. It felt maybe 15. I don't know what the time frame was. But they're one of the few that actually have come back. And I would say right now, Sark has Texas kind of back too, because ever since Vince Young, they've been a non-factor. They've got their own network. They've got all this money. They've got all this stuff, and they do nothing. Mm-hmm. USC, to me, is now in that category. Like, are they going to come back? Even though it looks like they've got all the shiny stuff, they don't really win on the field. So we ask this question a lot in college ball. Is this team, that team, whatever, going to be back? Well, Notre Dame has a chance next Monday night to actually fully get back to the way they were, in this respect, in the 80s, which is pretty wild because we haven't seen it a lot in the sport. Somebody be able to do it. Let's take a time out. We'll come back, talk more about the Jags coaching search. We'll flip that around. What's the latest on that? What do we know on that? More to get to still in that regard, plus a little more on the NFL playoffs from the weekend. Brent Austen Show here on a Monday on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 Network.
When it comes to trucks, I know exactly what I want. And at Bozard Ford, they make it easy to get exactly that. Let's go make this truck a little more my style. With Bozard Built, I can create my perfect truck right here. Lift kit? Check. Premium wheels? You bet. Advanced lighting package? Oh yeah. The Bozard team works their magic. From bumper to tailgate, I'm making this truck mine. It's everything that I wanted and more. From the field to the gym to weekend adventures. This truck's built for my journey. Bozard built. Customized for your lifestyle, built to exceed your expectations. Check out the inventory and available options at bozardbuilt.com. Unleash your dream ride. Customized, covered, and Bozard approved.
When it's time to get a new car for anyone in your family, just remember, nobody but Nimnick, the #1 Buick GMC dealer in Jacksonville. Get the latest price breaks on 2023 and 2024 models or the newest 2025 vehicles in the showroom on Phillips Highway or shop online at nimnickbuickgmc.com 24 hours a day. GMC Sierras, Yukons, and the redesigned Acadias, or get the all-new redesigned line with Buicks. It's nobody but Nimnick, and part of the reason why is this is a first-class buying experience here at Nimnick Buick GMC. You're not just a customer, you're a friend. This is about getting a vehicle that best fits you and getting you on the road, and also helping you and your family down the road. Nimnick has a treating you right guarantee, courtesy, respect, fairness. The most Buicks, GMCs, and Jacksonville's only Car Bravo dealer, nobody but Nimnick. Who has put in the most years and stands behind a better experience? Nobody but Nimnick. GMC. We are professional grade. If you need a quality play this football season at your home, call That One Painter First Coast. Locally owned and operated, experienced employees, no builder-grade materials. And there's more, and for that, we throw it to Noah Schlicksup. That One Painter First Coast can apparently help your kicking game, too.
Well, after my failure on skinny sticks last year on Creekside game day, I've spent a lot of time out here at Creekside practicing my kicks. There's only one issue. How is that even possible? The good news is I know exactly who can help. That One Painter can handle all your painting needs, from field goal posts to cabinets to stucco. They got you covered. Though they may not be able to help with my kicking, they can certainly help with the posts. Call That One Painter First Coast today for all your painting needs at 904-495-1373.
'24 provided plenty of memorable moments for the Jacksonville Armada on the pitch, including another conference championship game appearance for Tommy Krasanovich's under-23 men's team.
Is it in the dying moments?
Debuting this year for the first time, the girls in blue, as the Armada fielded a women's under-23 side in the WPSL and made its presence known with some highlight moments.
Potential goal of the season.
Then attention turned to the future, with MLS Next teams representing the Armada badge in 3 age divisions this fall, including an under-19 squad ranking among the best in the state. Those teams are a big focus on Fleet and Footy, covering the big soccer stories each week on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
I'll put one in the back of the net for you.
Join us for player profiles, fun interviews, and the very latest on the Fleet and all things footy. That's every Thursday at 2 p.m.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Mike Vrabel named the new head coach of the New England Patriots. He's being introduced as we speak. Does that make the Patriots dangerous for years to come in the AFC? We'll see. Brent Martineau along with Austen Lane back on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. and Jason Hamby here as well. Brent Austen Show on a Monday as the Jags continue the search for a coach. And Mike Vrabel could have been a big candidate, obviously wasn't for the Jags and really the rest of the league because it looked like he was going to New England almost from the jump. A couple of comments, well, more than a couple of comments. I like to try to get to the comments. I'm trying to do a better job of this. I've been doing a better job. Delphonic said I had a better weekend than Justin Herbert. Hey, Austin.
I think everybody did.
I don't like to label guy. I think I'm pretty consistent here. I don't like to jump on piling on people who you take a 2-game sample now in their career, and it's the 27-0 Jags game that they blew. And now this one, which was just a poor performance by the entire team in many respects, but especially Herbert. He's done a lot of wonderful things. I think he's a good quarterback. I don't want to label him as a bad quarterback because he can't win 2 football games. But the bottom line is the world will a little bit. And this one's looked squarely on him more than maybe Staley from a couple of years ago and the way he kind of ran that game against the Jags, especially defensively.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's a bad look for Justin Herbert, but I'm not going to call him a bad quarterback. And if you really want me to double down here, sorry to tell you, man, but I'd still take him over Trevor Lawrence right now, Brent.
Oh, yeah, I think numbers-wise, it's hard to not do that. I think also, I just think you lose a little bit when you can't. Now, what's he been in the league since, what would he be, 2019 or 20? I mean, he's been in the league a long time without winning a playoff game. And they've had some good squads. Like, he's been set up pretty well. And I would just say that does start to become a bit of an issue, right?
It definitely starts to become an issue, but I think, I mean, listen, I'm not going to make up excuses for Justin Herbert. He looked abysmal. But also I think that he had the least to work with this year in terms of an offense. So if you give him another wide receiver, I mean, and with all due respect, like, and Hamby, I know he's your dude, but like, still a rookie, you know, like Ladd McConkey's still a rookie. Like, he's going to get better, but like that was their best wide receiver this year. Was a rookie, and where was 3rd round pick? Second? I can't remember who was taken.
Second.
I think second
round pick. I mean, that was by far your best offensive weapon the entire season because, you know, J.K. Dobbins was hurt as well for a majority of it. I think if you give him more weapons and you truly give him a true criteria, maybe he's going to exceed expectations. But yeah, until that time, Brent, you can label him and say, you know, when it's down to the crunch time, he's just not that good right now.
By the way, Mike McCarthy is going to be made available. That's breaking news in the NFL, according to reports, that he's going to hit free agency. And so we'll get into that in just a moment. Let me get through a couple more of these. We actually had a Mike McCarthy comment in here. Ravens offense looks real deal. I mean, the Ravens offense really does. You know, here's my thought coming out of the weekend. And I know people have loved the Lamar Jacksons and the Burrows and the Mahomes and Josh Allen. And I'm going to take even Burrow out of this because I still feel it looks different, even though his numbers are great and he's a fantastic quarterback. You can be good quarterback, but it doesn't always look like this to me. Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, and obviously Mahomes look like they are playing a different game in terms of the speed of it and how it's processed. And it looks like they're in my backyard playing football, while everybody else looks like they're playing NFL football when you watch them. I mean, Jalen Hurts has had a nice career, but Jalen Hurts is not even close to any of those guys, in my opinion. Burrow, yeah, he is close to those guys, but haven't seen him enough on this stage outside of the 1 year as well. Austin, those guys, like, I'm not sure. And you know what else hits me? Like, we have a comment about Trevor Lawrence, blah, blah, blah. I think Trevor still has a ceiling to hit, right?
Sure.
I don't think he's ever hitting that. I'm not sure he's hitting that ceiling. Like, I don't think many people do. I don't think he's going to be the guy that makes the game look slow. Running. And listen, these guys have something in common. They're able to move around so much that they create space, they create time. They're 6-second plays. That's not Trevor. Trevor can move. Trevor can throw on the run. But he's not going to be dancing around back there the way Mahomes, Lamar, and Josh do it. And it's just different. It looks different.
Yeah, it just does look different. And I think a lot of that is, I mean, it's all confidence, right? It's all a mindset. Like, every quarterback, like, has the physical tools. It's not like, Patrick Mahomes was blessed with this outstanding footwork and this arm and it's all comparable. But what it comes down to is the belief, I think, in yourself and the confidence that surrounds you. And that's due to great coaching. It's due to great play calling. And obviously it's due to surround yourself with great players as well. And I think those quarterbacks you listed, Brent, they have a lot of those attributes.
Yeah, and listen, I mean, the Ravens are so. You put Lamar's numbers up. It's funny when you put the Lamar's numbers up against Josh Allen. You're like, well, he's going to win MVP. I still don't necessarily feel that way. But Lamar is actually, the more I watch him play, I'm like, well, maybe I should feel that way. But Derrick Henry getting 2,000 yards or 1,700 yards or whatever is a huge benefit. Like Josh Allen does not have that benefit. I mean, he's making Shakir and those guys and Samuel look really good.
Yeah.
And again, he even plays it different. Lamar's so fast, and you never know what he's going to do. I think Jaden Daniels does have some of that. You don't know if he's going to take off and run. It puts a defense uneasy. Josh has that same thing in a different way. He's not as explosive, but his flick of the football is so good. Like, he's got a little bit of the Lamar because he's dangerous with the legs, but then he's got the Mahomes flick of the wrist.
Yeah.
So fun to watch.
It's crazy, man. And it just looks different, right? Like, listen, Burrow looks different too, but for different reasons, right? Like, Burrow is just like, can make any single throw, it seems like, and make it just right on the money. When you got guys like Josh Allen, though, Lamar Jackson, and I think Jane Daniels will eventually learn to grow into this. I think the one thing about Jane Daniels right now, even though I think he set the rookie rushing record at quarterback as a rookie or whatever, I think with him, it's knowing when to take off and knowing when to pull and throw the ball. And I think he's still trying to learn that a little bit. The game still looks a little fast for him at points. Now, he makes up for that because he's so athletic and everything. But, what makes Lamar Jackson so great, it's like, dude can take off whenever he wants, literally. Guy could have 30 rushes a game and probably win one. Now, he might get hurt, but he could win a game just basically off his legs alone. But he's smart now in terms of, oh, well, here's Mark Andrews. Let me go and throw it to him. Or, oh, no one's open. Let me go and take off. It's knowing when to go and knowing when to stay in the pocket.
Well, and let's just say one thing. I think you mentioned Burrow. I think Trevor will fit. He has to play more like, he's going to play more like Burrow, right? He's going to look at his elite level. He's going to look more like him and even a Justin Herbert play in the game than he will a Josh, Lamar, even a Patrick Mahomes. I think the style looks different. More comments. Bobby Buford says, is it realistic that some of these guys interviewed for head coach would take a DC or OC position with the Jags? I think yes, more on the DC side, probably not in the OC. I don't think Liam Cohen's coming to Jacksonville to be the OC. I don't think Kellen Moore's doing that. I don't think Ben Johnson's doing that. I don't think Todd Monken's doing that. And missing one. I don't think Joe Brady's doing that. So no, I don't think that's realistic, but I do think the DC, like a Patrick Graham or somebody like that, there are a few in here that could make some sense. Maybe not even a few. Maybe it's just Patrick Graham or a Saleh that makes some sense in that capacity. Around the Ball HQ says, Ben Johnson is the guy I want, but there's 5 guys that would be solid hires to me. I don't know if it's 5, but maybe I can talk myself into 5. I think I would be pretty happy with a handful of guys. It's not Ben Johnson or bust for me in this cycle. Let's see what else we got here real quick. Brent, did you put anything in the envelope yet? No, but maybe on Friday. The envelope game might be on Friday. We'll see if that is the case.
By the way, shout out to Delphonic for sharing that again. I forgot to retweet it, but
I forgot to too.
Yeah, I saw that he clipped it and everything, and yep, I had some PTSD from that segment, so thank you, Delphonic.
I bet you did.
Man, I'm surprised how calm I was, actually. I thought I was going to be a lot more ticked off than what I was.
Let's see what else we got here just to get to. Also, we get an offensive-minded head coach who will likely be out, who will be out DC because Ryan Nielsen was no better than Mike Caldwell. So who will be our DC? Yeah, you're going to have to get a good defensive coordinator. I feel like there are more defensive coordinators out there to get, though. I don't know if that's fact. I just feel like there are more good DCs out there than good offensive coordinators, at least that fans would like. Whether that's true or not, I'm not sure. Mike Tomlin, Mike McCarthy still hasn't signed an extension and may be available to interview tomorrow. McCarthy, that just happened, by the way. Or it looks like it's happening according to reports. He is a free agent tomorrow. Doesn't look like they're coming to an extension, which now opens up the Dallas job. So does that mean now great. Ben Johnson could get involved in the Dallas job? And the flip side of that is, should the Jags have interest in Mike McCarthy, Austen?
Should Ben Johnson be involved in the Dallas gig? Like, why not? It's Dallas. It's a pretty big team, a lot of resources, a lot of great players. You got the wide receiver, you got the quarterback. Yeah, I think, and you have an offensive line that's pretty solid too, I feel like. So that does make some sense in Dallas for Ben Johnson. And would I want the Jaguars to interview Mike McCarthy? Hey, Brent, no. No, absolutely not. No, thank you. No.
You are not a McCarthy guy.
No. Never
have been.
Nope. No, because I saw it happen. I saw it unfold in Green Bay, and I said it when he went to Dallas. Like, I don't need him in Jacksonville.
I think there's more to this that you have. You just don't want to say on a microphone or something.
Yeah, Brent. I saw him at a bar one time in Central Wisconsin. He snubbed me. Like, no, there's nothing. Not at all. Like, listen. Like, if you follow the Mike McCarthy story, he got the job in Dallas because he lied during the interview. I don't need a coach like that. Sorry. Like, is that not a big deal to anybody else? Like, when you lie in your interview, you get the job, and then you laugh about it after? Is that not a big deal?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's as big a deal as he still won in Dallas, and he won a lot of games in Dallas.
Oh, cool.
And he won a Super Bowl before. I mean, and people, listen, we just did. I'm not telling you that Jags should. I don't know if the Jags
We just had a Super Bowl coach in Doug Peterson. We don't need another one now.
We don't need another one.
Seriously.
But Mike Tomlin's okay.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
What's the difference between Mike Tomlin, McCarthy, and Doug Peterson?
Consistency.
All right, go get me Tomlin's. Hammy, get me McCarthy's record. You're going to make me do this. And I'm not an advocate for McCarthy. I'm just asking. But I bet his win percentage is pretty damn good. It's better than Doug's.
185 and 123.
What's that as a win percentage?
No, hold up. Take the Green Bay. I'm talking about in Dallas. Like, what was the win? Like, year by year. Go through, like, the wins and losses and then go with Tomlin.
All right.
While we're on this, while you're getting that, Colin brings up something that's pretty interesting to me. I was going to ask this question, Colin. Thanks for thinking like me. The Cowboys have an even worse GM setup than the Jags. I'm not sure that's the case, but I wanted to ask that. Let's throw Dallas in the mix. Who would you actually rather work for as an owner? Because it's totally different styles. And I know right now people aren't too happy with Shad Khan. Would you rather work with Shad Khan as an owner or Jerry Jones as an owner? What does the league think? What do you think? Like, where does that fall? Because those are two different animals now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm going off just based on what I see, Brent. Like, I don't know what Jerry Jones is like, in the building. But I'd probably rather work with Shad Khan just because then it's more like of my team, I feel like, where it's going to be, it's going to always be Jerry Jones's team.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, my initial thought is I think I'd rather work with Shad Khan too.
Yeah.
But listen, one thing about Jerry Jones, he's very loyal too. Like, I mean, this thing just ran out, but Jason Garrett had that job forever. He doesn't, like, I always throw back when you say, well, who else would have this coach and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, well, Dallas would.
Didn't Jerry Jones say that McCarthy is going to be the guy?
Say that again?
Didn't Jerry Jones say that Mike McCarthy was going to be their guy?
No, he just never said he wasn't, I believe. Oh.
Okay.
And you know what's really interesting about Jerry is he lets the deadline go up to the deadline on everything. And it's like Ezekiel Elliott, it's on Amari Cooper, it's on Dak Prescott. It's like he uses all the time allotted to make his decision. He's not running to hit the button. And now he's behind in the cycle because of it. You do wonder if they think they can get somebody. Would Kellen Moore go back to Dallas? Remember, he was in line maybe to take over at some point. Could he be the guy that goes back to Dallas? Hammy, what you got?
All right, so both have coached the exact same seasons. Tomlin has coached 4 more games and has a full regular season record of 630 winning percentage.
Okay.
63%. And Mike McCarthy's is 60.8. So almost the same. Tomlin has a slight edge. Last couple of years in Dallas only, Mike McCarthy went 6-10, 12-5, 12-5, 12-5, 7-10. Mike McCarthy last 5 years, 12-4, 9-7, 9-8, 10-7, 10-7.
So the bookends were better, obviously, for Tomlin. Yeah. I think you said McCarthy twice, but the second one was Tomlin.
Yes,
so Tomlin and it's an interesting deal. Doesn't it feel totally different though, Austin? Like where most people would be like, "Hey, I want Tomlin."
Let me ask you this: how many losing seasons has Mike McCarthy had?
Total, we got a 6-10, a 7-9, a 4-7 before he was fired last year in Green Bay, a 6-10, and a 7-10. So
how many losing seasons has Mike Tomlin had?
He has none.
He's never had one. Yeah.
The prosecution rests, Your Honor.
Okay, they're not that different. They both got a Super Bowl title, and their win percentage is about the same.
One doesn't know how to have a losing season. One does. And one had Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers, and one's had, I don't know, a Ben Roethlisberger who had Dirk Nowitzki hips, Kenny Pickett, who had the smallest hands known to man, and then the cringe lord in Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, who was an island of a misfit toy coming from Chicago. One had Dak Prescott and Aaron Rodgers.
I would still lean toward Tomlin as well because it feels a little goofy at times with McCarthy. It's what it is with Tomlin. You know, you get what you get, and you know that. And I actually like that part. Just a couple other comments here. Mr. Hugo Brent sounds pretty angry this morning. He must have started the steroids this weekend. Also, that timeout tweet would have been featured on what Brent should have tweeted. Yeah, we did have a segment before that. We could bring that back. But I did tweet that one. All right, so you got a lot of comments. Appreciate you hanging out in the chat. The news in now looks like McCarthy is going to be out. Chicago will no doubt interview him because they have interviewed everybody but you and me in this. It's unbelievable.
You get the email yet?
I didn't know. I did not.
Oh, yeah. Tuesday, 8 o'clock in the morning for me.
Oh, that's good. They just want me to write an article about what they need. We'll see where it goes. Hey, Mike Vrabel goes to New England. Is this going to be? I had the two examples in my head moments ago. Pete Carroll, Bill Belichick, where the second go around is big time. Is he going to build them into a Super Bowl champ again? Or how do you feel about what he's about to do in New England? He's set up very nice. He's got looks like a franchise quarterback, probably the best one he's had, at least in terms of a prospect. And then they've got a bunch of money. He can make that team however he wants. They've got the 4th overall pick. Is he going to hit? Is that a home run hire for New England?
I mean, I think it's a home run hire. That was the guy that I wanted because, like I said, I think in terms of tearing it down from the studs and building it back up, I think Vrabel was probably the best candidate for that, and that's what has to happen in New England. So will it take a couple years? Probably, right? Because you're still playing in a division that's going to have the Bills. We're not quite sure on the Jets yet. The Dolphins, even though we're not really excited for them, they're still a quality team at least. So it could take a couple years to rebound. But yeah, I think when you have a good quarterback, or at least an appetizing quarterback like Drake May, and you have a lot of money to work with, and obviously I think you have the keys now to the kingdom. They gave you all the resources. I think Mike Vrabel can get the best out of that New England team, and I think in a couple years they can definitely be competitive.
Yeah, I think he's set up pretty good. The question is, do they become an elite team in the AFC? Because you've got some. You've got Baltimore. You've got Buffalo right now. Looks like Cincinnati will be in that conversation. We obviously have the Chiefs. You could get the Chargers in that conversation. Yeah, could you get Denver in that conversation, depending on the growth of a Bo Nix? We'll see. I mean, Houston's won back-to-back in 2 playoff games in a row. I wouldn't call them elite, but can they get there with that defense and the pieces around? Obviously, we hope the Jags can get in that conversation, but we can't put them anywhere close to it right now. So there's a lot. Now, I caution this. We thought there'd be a lot of good teams in the AFC this year, and there weren't. Like, we thought this thing was 11 or 12 deep, and a lot of them peeled back. So it'll be interesting to see what the AFC looks like, but there's definitely a pathway for Vrabel, much like there's a pathway for the Jags if they get the right guy to get in the mix. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do. Delphonic says, will they bring Josh McDaniels back? I think I've heard that or seen a lot of reports on Tommy Rees as OC in New England. I'm not sure where that's going to end up, but it seems like Tommy Rees. Hey, are you bothered by the process of the Patriots? I know the league has stuff in view, all right, in terms of the Rooney Rule and everything else. They actually threw it in the league's face and really the rest of the NFL's face to get the guy they wanted. Now, there's a part of me that says this. You got to play by the rules because the rules are in place. But if you want your guy and like your guy and know who you have, and this was hands down, everybody in the NFL knew this was going to be their guy, then, I mean, what are you supposed to do if you're I'm not trying to defend the Patriots. They made a mockery of the whole thing by interviewing Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton.
I know.
They got called out on it. But at the end of the day, like, everybody had Vrabel going to New England. Like, it made so much sense. And if you're going to, this is a win-oriented business. This is a bottom-line business. This is a billion-dollar industry. It's a huge move. Like, you can't miss on your guy even for the sake of some bad PR is the point. Sure, Patriots could have handled this better. At the end of the day, guess what? They're the only ones so far who's got the guy they really wanted.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get it. And a lot of this is stemmed, too, from what happened with Mayo, really just getting 1 year and everything. But listen, at the end of the day, and OJ Mayo might be a great coach someplace else one day, and I get, like, he's a coach of color, so we always got to bring that to the forefront. But at the end of the day, I think anybody right now, with even a casual football fan, would go, I think Vrabel right now is a better coach than Mayo. So why wouldn't you bring Vrabel to your team, especially a guy who's got a lot of ties to that organization? So I look past the Rooney Rule. I look past skin color, and I just say, who's the best candidate for the job? And once again, I don't care if Mike Vrabel is Asian, black, purple, whatever the case may be. I wanted him in Jacksonville. I think he's the best guy regardless. And now he's going to New England. New England got their guy. More power to him.
Yeah, you know, it's always been the league says, the trend says, the proof is in the pudding here, that minorities have not had the chances and opportunities to coach and lead football teams as a coach or a front office person as white men. It's just the way it's been. And so these rules, I think, in place. I think some of the rules are very good to be in place to provide opportunity. The one thing I always come back to on this, and this is where I guess it probably comes off as a little bit naive, and I'm not, because I just admitted that. I get that part, but I try to put myself in the owner's position, everybody else's position. This is a business that all that matters is winning. Like, I got to believe, I would just hope that if the best person for the job is man, woman, black, white, you name it, you're going to get the best person for the job because winning is so damn important.
Yeah.
But again, you can't ignore the history. And I mean, you know, we used to do this with quarterbacks, right? We'd say the same thing about the quarterback. I don't think we talk about that as much anymore, Austin. I just did this yesterday just for, and it's a little, it's hard to do totally because, like, now Daniel Jones isn't with the Giants or whoever the Raiders quarterback even is. But I don't think we talk about the black quarterback stigma either as much or anymore. Because there are 15 right now black quarterbacks leading NFL teams, and there are 17 white quarterbacks leading NFL teams.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're going to get to that point in coaching and in GM roles and everything else. I don't know. But I would hope we get at least closer to where we've been in that regard. So it doesn't need to be a topic. It doesn't need to have parameters in place because you're just going to get the best human being for the job.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're far past the point now of, you know, the black quarterback versus the white quarterback, which is refreshing because you've had black quarterbacks with MVPs as well, a lot of them. So that's been kind of put to bed. Now I think just the last line here is, and we hear a lot about him because he's a very good player as a rookie. Cooper DeJean, can we get some more white cornerbacks around, Brent? Because that guy is like every trending on Twitter nonsense or X, whatever you want to call it, gets brought up in the game. Like, it's crazy how we've come so far, but the great white cornerback is still like, it's like that unicorn out there.
Hey, I'm going to forget to get to this totally off topic as Mike Vrabel gets introduced, and Mike McCarthy obviously is now a free agent. I don't know how many teams will be interested in him. Dallas job opens up. That changes things a little bit. I think it brings some Jags candidates certainly into play in Dallas, which feels a little bit like Chicago in a lot of respects, but has its own issues, but also pros. So we get away from that for a moment. And did you see, now that I can't remember his name, I'm just blanking on his name. The boxer retired this morning. Or was it last night?
Oh, Tyson Fury?
Yeah, Fury. Is that real?
Yeah. He's done this a couple times.
He's already retired a couple times?
Yeah. He said he's going to walk away, and then he comes back.
Oh, okay. Yeah. About $50 million or whatever will do that to you next time you fight.
No, for sure. To be fair, there's nothing much for him to do anymore in the sport of boxing, right? Like, he's done it all. He's become a champion. He's lost to Usyk twice. You can't really run that back. The only match that would make sense, which I think that's why he's not going to retire, is Anthony Joshua. And that would probably be, even though both guys are coming off of losses and everything, that would still be one of the biggest fights in England in history. And they would sell out whatever, soccer stadium they wanted to. So, yeah, I saw the video. He kind of cracked the joke a little bit. He kept it short. I don't think Fury's done yet. This is just, I feel like boxers do this all the time just to kind of stay relevant.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. A couple years ago when we were on the radio side of things, I feel like we were talking about with Fury and Joshua and others, like, hey, the heavyweight, the boxing has a chance to become a thing. Hasn't really materialized, right? I mean, hasn't. Yeah. I mean, a little here or there, but even with Fury losing a couple times doesn't help it. So, like, I feel like we had a chance to get this heavyweight division. Obviously, the Joshua thing isn't materializing either. Is there still a chance that these guys still can get, we can get another high moment for heavyweight boxing?
Nah, I mean, now you got, what is it? I think it's Dubois taking on Usyk for the championship, and a lot of people say Dubois actually beat Usyk the first time with a body shot that was claimed to be a low blow, so there's controversy there, but to be fair, and Usyk's a great champion in terms of his skill set in the boxing ring. He's a pure boxer, but he's from Ukraine. But I think he's from Ukraine, sorry. But he, the mic skills, the showmanship, he's more of a humble guy, which I respect because that's kind of what I try to be. But, Fury, what made him so great was he was this brash, he had this attitude, he was great on the mic, he had it all, and he was this behemoth of a man, as opposed to Usyk, who's a little more on the shorter side, more of kind of built like a middleweight, if you will. The biggest boxing fights right now outside of the Mike Tysons and Jake Pauls are probably the smaller weight classes. So they announced that Terrence Crawford is going to be fighting Canelo later on in this year. And that will probably break numbers just because Canelo is the face of Mexican boxing, which is, one of the biggest countries in the sport of boxing. And Terrence Bud Crawford might be pound for pound the best boxer in the world right now. So that's going to be an intriguing matchup.
Yeah, good stuff. First big card of UFC over the weekend. Did you watch it? And was it good?
You're talking about the last one? Yeah, so it was the first card. I did watch it. I watched some of it. Preston Parsons, a guy from Jacksonville, was on that card. Unfortunately, didn't go his way. He got finished in the first round. Dude, who they kind of did him dirty, man. He had an opponent all set up who was from Sweden. That guy backs out probably 2 weeks ago. And they replaced him with this dude who's an up-and-comer, his first UFC match, but he's on Dana White's Contender Series. He's a wrestler from Oklahoma State. A lot of hype around him, and to be fair, I get it. It's your first UFC match, there's some pressure, but the guy that Preston fought lived up to the hype. He got Preston out pretty early. So, yeah, I mean, I watched some of it, but I didn't watch all of it.
Yeah, so that was a big card. Obviously, Austin training down in South Florida for his next fight. Hopefully, some more news on when that exactly will be and who against coming up in the days and weeks ahead, or maybe not, or what?
No, I'm not going to say too much, but it's against somebody different now.
Oh, it is. That's changed.
Yeah, just found that out. So actually, hey, I can say this part. I don't care. Signed a new contract actually today. Taking on a new opponent now because the guy I was supposed to fight ended up getting hurt, I guess.
Okay, same time frame?
Same time frame, and
Yeah.
obviously I can't announce that time frame, but rhymes with Ben Barch.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'll order my smoothie right now. Let's take a time out. Be back.
So October.
Brent Austen Show on a Monday. We're all doing some gymnastics here. How about this? Brian Thomas Jr., Malik Neighbors hanging out with Jaden Daniels. Of course, LSU teammates. They went to that postseason game. There's a good chance we get Brian Thomas Jr. in Orlando for the Pro Bowl. Hopefully that happens. He's the first alternate, but with Zay Flowers being beat up right now and potentially even going to a Super Bowl, we'll see how that shakes out. I bet that was a cool experience for BTJ to be there, feel that vibe over there in Tampa as well. Makes you a little bit more hungry, and we'll do that. We're okay with that. Another big year ahead, hopefully, for Brian Thomas Jr. in 2025.
If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit. When you hear that, you think Bono's Pit Barbecue, a staple in Northeast Florida now for 75 years. A place that feels like home with friendly service, a meeting place for friends, family, or business occasions. On the menu, the corn nuggets are a favorite in our house, but there's something for everyone. Sandwiches, platters, salads, sides, desserts, and family feasts. You see Bono's all over the place in Northeast Florida. You know, there are almost 20 locations in the Jacksonville area now, so stop on by, sit down, and dine in with Bono's. You can also take it to go. There are drive-thrus in many of the locations, and they have delivery options too. Just download the Bono's app to make things easy. I signed up for the loyalty program, and you can too, to get special offers. If Jacksonville is home, few things feel more Jacksonville than Bono's Pit Barbecue. Celebrate 75 years and many more to come. Bono's Pit Barbecue. If you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
For the game day hustle and every day in between. Juggling my show, Jags Social, to going under the Friday night lights and a social life, it's a daily tournament. But this ride, MVP status. The all-new 2024 Lincoln Nautilus isn't just my car, it's my personal locker room, office on the go, and VIP lounge on wheels. Let's talk tech. My profile remembers everything from customizing my dash display to setting the ambient lighting and my signature scent. And wireless charging, essential for live tweeting scores. Whether I'm packing for a beach day with friends or heading to the gym, there's space for every passion. After dominating all day, this becomes my recovery zone. The massage feature is like having a personal PT on call. Life's a non-stop game, but with this ride, I'm always on my A game. The 2024 Lincoln Nautilus. Drive.
You trust CGC to make your water great, and now you can trust CGC with your plumbing needs as well. Fast, convenient scheduling, licensed and insured. A quick call away at 904-552-1242.
You never know when you're going to have an issue with a shower, toilet, or maybe it's a sink that sometimes is easy to fix. All right, let's be honest. I'm not fixing anything. I'm totally staging this because when I have a plumbing problem, I call CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing.
Trained professionals, transparent pricing, customer satisfaction. Small problem or even a bigger issue. Right now, save 10% off a new Rinnai tankless water heater. The experts with 25 years of experience at CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing can do it all. Call 904-552-1242 or visit cgcwater.com. For a limited time, CGC is waiving the trip charge on all related plumbing calls. CGC Water Treatment and Plumbing, an authorized independent Connecticut dealer. Florida license number CFC 1432579.
Here on Spring Sports Media Day on Action Sports Jax.
It's an opportunity, an education beyond the classroom and the sports arena. Life skills, testing skills, social skills. It's called High School 912, a program focused on maximizing the growth of students in academics, sports, and life. And here's your chance to get involved. If you're a local business, or if you just want to make a donation to help support programs like ACT and SAT boot camps, career days, Leadership Academy, Financial Literacy Academy, and so much more.
All right, another Nice High School Panther, Jack Cole.
High School 912 supports and hosts high school sporting events and several media days throughout the year. For more information on how you can get involved, visit jackshighschool912.com.
It's the place we party in football season with Jaguars All Access. Welcome to Spring Sports Brewery, everybody. Say hello to our guest tonight. That is Trevor Lawrence. You can bring your party or event to Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield any day and any time. Rehearsal dinners, corporate events, birthdays. Here at Springs, you can enjoy the inside area and the outside area. Good for any weather, good for any occasion. Watch the games, play the games, shoot some hoops. Beer? Yeah, they have that. Plenty of choices. And sure, this is a brewery, but Strings is also a restaurant, and the food is fantastic. A full menu made from scratch meals. And if you need String Sports Brewery to help with a party at your place, they cater too. Family, beer, food, sports. Spring Sports Brewery in Springfield.
Welcome back to the Brent and Austen Show, streaming on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network.
Hey, we were just talking about this show, Driven to Inspire, the newest show on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. Liv Tassley, she took you behind the scenes on a bunch of different folks involved with the Jags organization. For that old picture of Brian Sexton there. Some fans, behind the scenes people, and those stories are now on the Action Sports Jax 24/7 network. In fact, the debut show today at 6 o'clock. I think it runs multiple times. We'll get that schedule for you. We obviously have the Blitzies today as well. We've been playing that a bunch, replay. It's that time of year now that we lose some of the football content. We'll replay a bunch of the shows, but also fresh content each and every day for Miller and Moulton in the morning, 6 a.m. until 10 a.m., 10 a.m. until 1 p.m., obviously this show, and then Young and Norvell, 4 to 6 on a daily basis. And we have shows like Stadium Pulse and the Scrap House. Stadium Pulse on Fridays, Wednesdays, Scrap House. And then we'll be starting No Gate Fees soon enough. And I was just talking to Stuart Weber about the NASCAR Cup Date show. He did an interview this morning as Daytona 500. News that it's been sold out once again for the 10th consecutive year. And that's coming around the corner in February. I mentioned No Gate Fees about baseball and softball. Baseball season actually starts today. Tryouts for Coach Hamby. Austen Lane. Coach Hamby. He's back in the saddle.
That's right.
Teaching the next generation. Where are we at? New school?
Covenant.
It's not a new school, right?
Not a new school.
It's a new program?
They've had what's going on up here, up top? I don't know.
Well, I don't really know what's been going on with you all day. You actually, at times, Hamby, have looked like a giant silhouette.
Is that right?
Yeah, when you take the hat off, like the lighting in there combined with the black shirt and your black hair, I feel like you're just floating at times.
The floating head, the severed
head. That's the severed part of the ActionNewsJax.com story.
There we go.
On how to fix the Jags.
That's it.
Hamby, did we opt out of playing quarterback in flag football? What happened with that?
No, we're still going. We got a game tonight if it doesn't rain.
Oh, record? Wait. Do you know we haven't talked about the record much, which we know what the record's going to be here. Get ready, everybody. Worse or better than the Jacksonville Jaguars this year in terms of win percentage?
Oh, no.
I'm guessing worse.
Oh, no.
2-6 football team.
The Purdue Boilermakers.
2-6. Hey, do me a favor.
Yikes.
Take your ass off our screen. That's embarrassing.
We have the 33rd ranked defense in the NFL. And I haven't played a snap of defense all year.
Oh, here we go. Take some accountability. You're not scoring enough points.
We are not scoring enough points.
What are you averaging, Hamby?
We average about 20 points a game.
What's your favorite play? Favorite play?
Well, I mean, most teams run just cover 2 man or against us, so we run a lot of flood concepts, corners to the boundaries, which seem to work well. But there's no blocking in this league, unlike any other leagues that I've played in, and it's pretty much an immediate rush.
So here everybody comes the EPA stuff, Brent. Get ready.
No, so
full EPA.
Every team that we play that's beaten us, they all use double passing, and in this league you can throw it forward behind the line of scrimmage to another guy, and then he can throw it. So there's nuances to the rules.
I'd get out of this league.
Oh my gosh, is this even football? And
that's a lot.
They've all been in the league for 10 years, like legitimately. I'm not making that up. So we're just kind of getting worked by those kind of teams. But all of the teams that are first year, we've beaten them. So we're hanging our hat on that.
How serious does it get?
All two of them.
Have we gotten some fights almost?
There's been some penalties thrown with some. In my opinion, it's not fun if everybody's just friendly, and there's friendly. There's a borderline, but if we're gonna play competitive football and I'm gonna throw jump balls and two guys are going up for it who have high egos because they're grown adults now. If the pass gets broken up, there's got to be something said. So have some of our players told other guys that they're too small and it's extended from that to other lengths? Yes, it's happened. Yeah.
Hamby, what is the touchdown to interception ratio? And don't lie, please.
I think it's probably around 13-5.
13 touchdowns, 5 interceptions?
Yeah.
And you're averaging 30 points a game?
No, 20 points a game. No, we've been absolute horse crap in the red area. That's our biggest struggle. Once
Sounds
we get
familiar.
Down to the 5, because and then it becomes even shorter rush, and we don't exactly have big, tall playmakers. How would I say this?
Short in stature. Hamby's handing the ball off the whole time. Okay, just be honest. That's fine.
So
you're the army of flag football. Cool.
We're genetically hampered.
Let's just say you're back here.
5'10" white dudes.
Yeah, you don't have shirts that say we carry big sticks.
No, we don't have those. Don't have those.
Hey, have you thought about recruiting Marcel Robinson on the team?
I mean, Marcel would be not Marcel would be phenomenal, but
I mean, he once was the most improved player. I've got that right here.
Most improved.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Jacksonville Rush, most improved player, Marcel Robinson.
Dude's always willing to get better. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Hey, there's nothing better than what's the age group in this league?
Oh, it's all adults.
Well, I know, but so you're 24.
Yeah.
There's some younger, I'm assuming.
No, we're pretty much the youngest team.
Okay, so then all the way up to we're talking mid-30s or 29 or
no,
what?
Older.
Older?
Some of the guys that have cooked us have been in. This is their 15th year. They've been playing since they got out of college. They're 34, 35.
Hamby, this is embarrassing.
By a bunch of old dudes rocking Donjoy knee braces.
Not a bunch of old.
Shame on you.
Dude, they lateral at 8. They hook and lateral at 8 and lateral at 7 times.
Putting it in their water. Shame on you, Hamby.
I hope you don't wear anything Action Sports Shacks to that field.
I don't.
Thank you.
First of all. Second of all, just give us time.
Give us time.
We're
young. We're young.
What? Give you time? What? Give you 5 years so half the guys in your league probably pass away because they're so old? What are you waiting for?
Hamby's waiting on heart attacks.
Unreal.
There's nothing better, though, than really there's nothing worse, but there's also nothing better than 30, 35, 40-year-olds competing and getting mad at the Y or the media or the softball leagues it's why I stopped playing media league softball around here. It was fun for a bit, and then I was like, what are we doing? You guys are not even good athletes.
And it would drive me crazy.
But then my buddy, the worst thing with my buddy, I would go watch him in Rhode Island, Pat. He would play for a bit, that adult league softball stuff. And I mean, they would almost get in a brawl every night. I would go see. I'm like, what are you guys doing? You're supposed to be drinking beers, you fatzos, in the parking lot. It's softball.
I gotta come to one of these games.
You do. So the other night, we won our last game.
You're in your primes.
Well,
you're in your athletic prime.
Look, so the second to last game we played, it was freezing last weekend, and we played. It was a close game down to the wire, and there was some trash being talked. So, and at one point, these guys were just soft. It was like we weren't even saying it much, but it was like they were flipping out and asking for penalties to be called. And then at one point, one of our guys may have asked the opposing quarterback, "Bro, how old are you?" And the guy may have said 33, and that guy may have responded, "Yeah, you look every bit of it. Get off the field." So.
Yeah, I mean,
that's the kind of stuff that's going on.
What? Okay.
Man, it's so funny.
It's fun. It's a good time.
Sounds like
Delphonic is already on it.
Oh, boy.
It's unbelievable. So a couple other quick things. I was thinking of.
But back to baseball.
Yeah, back to baseball starts today. Good luck, all the kids. That's the worst time of year when you got to try out in 48-degree weather.
Practice already canceled today.
Oh, it did get canceled?
Yeah.
So you could have soft.
Bro, what?
It's pouring.
Yeah, it's a lot of rain up here today.
It's raining. Hammy, all I'm going to say is any kid that shows up rocking a T-shirt in 40-degree weather, go ahead and sign him on the spot.
Yeah.
He's a tough guy.
No problem.
Mental toughness is there.
You know, it's funny. I've been watching a lot of football with Ty, and I think everybody watch it. I think this is totally a video game thing because everybody plays the video and has been for a long time. But I don't remember ever talking ball, and while you're watching ball, pointing out like schemes and like Ty's favorite thing, and I tell him all the time, is like, all you're doing is covering grass. Like that's what he'll say like 100 times on a weekend, and I'm like, Ty, it's called a zone defense. like that's, but it's, and he'll still get mad and he'll be like, yeah, I'm right and you're wrong, whatever. But the bottom line is, that's like the kind of conversation that goes on. Is that, like, I remember doing that as a kid. Like, I watched a lot of football as a kid, and I wasn't just like, why is this guy running this play, or why is that, or this is like, listen to Happy talk about like the man beater and this and that. I'm just like, is that how everybody now consumes football? Because you got to remember, like, this weekend is the first time I've actually consumed football like a normal person, because usually I don't sit there and watch the games to this degree. But is that kind of the current way everybody's consuming it and questioning, because we all watch it so much more, so we have more knowledge, we pay attention to it so much more, and then I even think there's some influence on calling the video game plays and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, I think personally, like, you know, when I was coming up as a kid, you didn't have YouTube, you didn't have Twitter to just like look up highlights, to look up breakdowns or anything. What you went off of was like what your Pop Warner coach would tell you, and then what your high school coaches would tell you. So the information was kind of limited. Nowadays, I mean, the information is everywhere. You can become an expert depending how much work you want to put in terms of, you know, going on websites and reading about philosophies of scheme and everything, Brent. So I just feel like the information now, it's so much more accessible at our fingertips, where anybody can really become an expert in terms of zone coverages versus man coverages, because that information is everywhere.
Yeah, I'll give you 3 reasons. One is Madden, right? Yeah. So immediately you're actually able to apply information. Number 2 is guys like Romo, Brady, all those guys in the booth. Where it used to be 30 years ago was John Madden. Wow, you know, whatever. This guy has a lot of heart and effort, and now it's a bunch of concepts and everything, and Romo's calling plays before they happen. And then third is YouTube. Is honestly YouTube, because a lot of guys do film studies now, and they'll take you behind the scenes and show you why this works and why this doesn't. Like Paint the Play didn't exist. That 4th reason is Paint the Play didn't exist a couple years ago, and now it does.
And now it does. Very good.
Hey,
that one, Painter First Coast. Good
Tom
shout
Brady
out.
and Tony Romo in the same category again in terms of broadcasting, please. Let Tom Brady earn his stripes, because while Tony Romo was calling out plays and motions and everything, Tom Brady thought the Phillies were playing last night. So we're all good. You didn't hear that part? Yeah. Call them the Phillies.
We are so much more knowledgeable about the sport is the bottom line. We're so much more educated about the sport, and we used to not be that way. But that's how many more people are watching it and paying attention and betting on it and complaining about it and finding a reason for why this didn't work. And that makes everybody's job as a coach, by the way, even more difficult, because they're getting called out to task like on every play.
You guys wouldn't understand.
Speaking of, yes. Why did anybody give me that hat? I get it now yet. I mean, maybe I have to have it made. I think this is almost like an idiotic question, but I want you to step back from it anyway and answer it. Liam Cohen is a candidate for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They have requested him. He's been a name. Well, I think a lot of people wouldn't mind Liam Cohen. I'm not really sure why so many might be on that board or whatever, but did he lose a little shine last night with the Bucs losing? Does that take away from how Jags fans feel about a guy like Cohen because the Bucs didn't win and didn't do what they were supposed to do offensively. What do you think?
No, not really, because did Liam Cohen, was he responsible for handing the ball off and fumbling it and costing the team really the game like Baker Mayfield did? No. Was Liam Cohen responsible for some of the drop balls last night on Tampa Bay's side? No. Do you think Liam Cohen's been watching Jaguars film thinking, I like these drop balls. I can win with this over here in Jacksonville, because saw that last night again. So, no, I'm not going to put a lot of stake into how last night went. Obviously, a win would have helped him, I think. But at the end of the day, for what he's been able to do with what he's been had at in terms of wide receivers getting hurt, in terms of Baker Mayfield, in terms of rookie running back from Oregon, I think he's exceeded expectations. So no, Brent, I don't think it hurt him at all.
And they had 7 possessions last night. Only 7 possessions, and they scored on 4. And one was they got backed up off penalties, which he can't control. One was the fumble, and one was just a regular stall out. I mean, you only have 7 possessions in the game. It's not like you can score 40 points.
Yeah.
Because you just got to almost, that's more of a hat tip to the Commanders for controlling the game.
Yeah, and they did. They did do that. So, yeah, listen, I am not advocating that it should, because this is how narrow-sighted we sometimes get. If he had scored 40 points and they won the game, I think people would come in today and be like, hey, slow that down on Ben Johnson. Wait a minute. Now, hey, and then you got to be like, hey, people, Ben Johnson was off last week because they got the best offense in the league. You know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of that goes on with the emotions of all this. And so I was curious and I haven't seen as much of it as I thought I might. I was like, forget about Cohen. They lost, right? They fought, like, that's what happens in this kind of situation. And I've actually been pleasantly surprised I haven't seen as much of it. And I still really don't know where we are on the Cohen stuff. I think a lot of people and I think we said some folks said in the chat today, look what he did with like a guy like Levis at Kentucky.
Yeah, made him a first rounder.
Yeah, and so like people, the resume is still there. I think what I question on Cohen, and just because I don't think we know enough about him, I think it's the same question we do have about Ben Johnson, where we don't feel the same way about a guy like Aaron Glenn, even though he's never been in the role, is this whole leader of men concept. Like, we just don't have a feel for the offensive guys in that regard. We think the defensive guys are like, oh, yeah, no problem. But we don't really have a feel that the offensive guys are going to be great in that respect. Now, we've seen things written about Ben Johnson that would say, hey, yeah, he's going to be just fine. Right? We hear players talking about him. I think we'll probably hear the same about Liam Cohen. But we're really just so enamored with their offensive mind, what they're doing in the run games, how many points they're scoring. We kind of just wrap our arms around that. Meanwhile, the defensive guys are like, leader of men, culture. It's a funny thing that we do with this whole process. But I can't tell you that I don't feel the same way because of the conversation narratives and almost themes to this that we get. And I'm fascinated to see what Liam Cohen is as a leader of men. Like, does he have that trait? Can he do that? Can he lead this whole group along with calling plays? Can Ben Johnson? And by the way, there's great examples of people that have. There's also recent examples like Nathaniel Hackett. That was very difficult to do. He was having success as a play caller, but putting the whole thing together was a very difficult thing, which means you admire people who can, Austin, like the Reeds, even Doug Peterson, who's been able to do it. Maybe the Mike McCarthys of the world that's been able to do it. The Sean McVays have been able to do it. I think that's a trickier thing than people let on.
No, without a doubt. It's definitely tricky. And it's also very tricky to put him in an envelope as well. So I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Well, the guy that could go in an envelope is maybe Joe Brady by the end of the week. Haven't talked a lot about him. Let's do that tomorrow. Let's save Joe Brady for tomorrow because I think maybe you'll start building some noise for Brady. And he's another one that's doing great things with those Buffalo Bills and Josh Allen. And maybe there's actually more ties and links to what the Jags have to do on offense with their guy in Trevor Lawrence to Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills than even Jared Goff and the Detroit Lions or Baker Mayfield and the Bucs. I think you can make the argument. We'll try to do that a little bit on the flip side of it tomorrow. All right, getting a workout in today?
I already got one in, but yeah, getting ready to head back around probably 3 or 4 o'clock this afternoon to get another one in.
I did a few push-ups over the weekend, and my left shoulder is killing me, just to let you know.
Hang on. You kind of broke up a little bit there. Go ahead again, Brent.
My left shoulder is killing me. because I did a couple push-ups over the weekend.
Sounds like we got to sign you up for this flag football league.
Yeah, I won't be doing that. Delphonic, a tomorrow tease. Nice. Now, make sure I deliver on the tomorrow tease, Delphonic. Thanks for hanging with us throughout the day. All right, Austin, get out of here, man. We'll do it again tomorrow on a Tuesday on the Brent Austen Show on the Action Sports Jacks 24/7 network. You can watch the network all day today, actionnewsjacks.com, Action News Jacks app, Action News Jacks now on your smart TV. And then, of course, we'll see you on CBS 47 and Fox 30 as well. Have a great Monday, everyone.